Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Grading coaches. Read an article where coaches were being graded. And I'm not going to make this one of those segments where we get mad at how somebody grades Coach Elko or any of the staff. But we're going to do our own grades. Right? We're going to go through some of these new hires. And we're going to use the same logic that maybe some of the national pundits do when evaluating the coaches in college football. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. In the Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. This is Coffee Talk, presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of morning by going to texags.com/coffee. He's Olin Buchanan. I'm David Nuño. Hey, buddy. Missed you yesterday.
Thank you. I was listening. I was hearing y'all disparage me. I'm joking.
That was a pretty good Fargo.
You don't have to say I'm on assignment. I know you're covering for me. I went to the dentist. My wife and I both went, and our dentist is near Longview. So, when we go, it's a
journey.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Dr. Chad Silvertooth.
The big Silvertooth.
Well, what a great name. Were you ever born to be a dentist?
Was he a football player? Because that sounds like a football player.
No, but you know what? I don't think so. But his son, Cade, I think his name's Cade, is like the best player at Sabine High School up there.
Yeah.
He got on, I'll just say that I don't know which social media it was, but he's on Max Preps because he had this 60-yard touchdown run where everybody on the defense hit him. He's bouncing on him like you're playing Plinko.
Yep.
And then bowls over an official on the way into the end zone. So anyway, they're huge TexAgers. He and his wife, Sarah, huge TexAgers. So we always appreciate them. So I like to give him my business.
What would it take for a coaching hire for you to say that's an A? Is Coach Elko an A hire? No-brainer, guaranteed. I think he's done an A job. But if you were to give out a grade, considering where A&M is, I feel like he's done an A job so far.
Well, I do too. And if they close out Wednesday with Bussey, I think,
there might be another.
You can't even argue, because I think he's done an excellent job in the transfer portal. I think he's done as good a job as can be expected in the situation in recruiting high schools.
Yep.
I love his coaching hires, especially the guy we had in earlier this week. And I love the coaching fires he made. So, and again, we talked about what he did to repair relations with the Texas High School Coaches Association. So I think everything Elko has done, to me,
is an A. And
now,
resume, would you say A?
Well, I don't know how.
Doing well at Duke sounds A-ish.
I don't know how you can't be impressed with what they did at Duke. He had an injured quarterback this year and almost beat Notre Dame. I think they were inside the 10 when Leonard got hurt, and almost beat Notre Dame.
Leonard, by the way, just had surgery.
Yeah, but it's minor.
He'll be back for spring ball.
And you just said he was winning at Duke. And I've said before, David Cutcliffe won at Duke. Steve Spurrier won at Duke. Everybody else in the last 50 years failed at Duke.
So the reason I bring it up, and we're going to go through some of these coaches, 247 has them as a B. I don't have a problem with B.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with B. I think it's of an A, but I have maroon-colored glasses. I'll admit that. I like the guy. I like everything he's done, and I liked it before they hired him. So All those reasons, he's an A. But I'm okay with a national guy giving a B. But I want to make sure they use that same grading system for other coaching hires.
Right.
So, like
consistent.
Kalen DeBoer for Alabama, that's an A hire. You know what? I agree with that.
Don't have a problem with that.
Don't have a problem with that at all. This is 247 Sports. I don't have a problem with that at all. Arizona hiring Brett Brennan from San Jose State. He gets a C. Okay, that's fine. Duke.
Winning at San Jose State's not easy either.
But I don't know enough about the situation. Manny Diaz, B-. I'm okay with that.
What did Manny Diaz do the last time he was a head coach?
He went 21-15 at Miami.
So that screams C to me.
Okay, but I'm fine with that. I love Willie Fritz. I've talked to him several times.
There's an A.
He gets an A.
Yeah.
He gets an A-.
Why is it minus?
I don't know. A- for Houston.
That's just somebody wanting to say, okay, I don't want to give too many A's out. I'm going to put a minus on this guy who's won everywhere he's been.
Forgive me for not pronouncing the name correctly. Indiana coach Kurt Cignetti.
Don't know him.
He gets an A-.
Where was he before?
According to this, Cignetti 119-35 as a coach, but this isn't in Indiana University of Pennsylvania, Elon or James Madison, although he did a phenomenal job at those stops. Put the Dukes in the national conversation this year. But the Indiana job might be close to impossible as there is in Power 5. I would say that Duke is in that same conversation, but okay. Michigan gets a B.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Michigan State hires Jonathan Smith, gets an A+. I like Jonathan Smith a lot.
I like Jonathan Smith a lot.
I'm just saying, like, he's in the same ballpark as Elko, in my opinion. It's not that different. If I'm using a grading scale, if Jonathan Smith is a A+, then Elko's an A+. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, Oregon State was good this year. They weren't great.
Jeff Lebby gets a B+.
B+.
Yeah.
Well, I've been hearing how great Jeff Lebby is for years. Oh, this great offense. I'm like, yeah.
Again, I don't have a problem with Elko. I think, and we'll get to Elko in a second. I think he got a B. He might have gotten a B+. I think it was a B. I don't have a problem with grading him a B. I just want to make sure that the grading scale evens out. Northwestern hiring David Braun to take over for Pat Fitzgerald. He gets an A.
Really?
Huh. Interesting.
I guess because they did better last year than people thought. An A. Okay.
Okay. He gets an A. Oregon State hires Trent Bray. B.
I don't know anything about Trent Bray.
Syracuse, Fran Brown gets a B+. Okay, I'm okay with that. Again, I'm okay with it.
I got to admit, I don't know a lot about Fran Brown. Where was he before?
No head coaching experience, but has compiled an excellent coaching staff.
See,
that's exactly my point.
That's just buffoonery. I mean, I wonder who's the guy that wrote it. Do you know?
I forget.
Yeah, but when Elko goes and wins 9, he won 9 games at Duke.
So Elko did get a B+. Excuse me, he didn't just get a B. He got a B+. But to me, to compare Fran Brown to Mike Elko in the same, that's not fair, guys. That's come on, like. You get Fran Brown, and maybe it's the level of program you go to. That's how you like. Oh well, Syracuse doesn't do much anymore. Maybe that's why. And A&M's a sleeping giant that hasn't woken up. So Elko gets a B+. Washington hiring Jed Fish, B+. I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and that's all the ones that I have written down.
But you're going to say Jed Fish, who took Arizona to 10 wins and beat Oklahoma in a bowl game. Well, you can say whatever you want to about a bowl game, but I think Oklahoma was actually well represented with their team. And this guy, Arizona, I mean, when was the last time they were good? Desert Swarm?
Yeah.
And this guy he gets a B+. He doesn't get the A that you're giving to a guy that you says has no coaching experience.
Yeah. I'm 100%.
And I'm not even. See, this isn't about Elko or anything. This is just how do you come on? Well, how do you justify that?
It isn't about Elko, but the reason it partially is because when we do 24 and 24. You know, like I take it pretty serious to make sure that I have my own parameters. You have your parameters. I think a big one for you is the eyeball test, correct?
Yes.
Right. I use the eyeball test. I have my own little formula that I use, and then I can back up my reasons, and I may be wrong because opinions, we all got them, right? But if you're going to say Fran Brown is the same as Mike Elko, and Fran Brown's not done anything as a head coach, and Mike Elko goes to Duke and wins at Duke and has a legitimate chance in the ACC before injuries, right? And that's the same.
Right. That's
and Jeff Lebby? Come on.
Yeah. What's Lebby actually done?
I agree with Willie Fritz being an A. Michigan State's head coach, Jonathan Smith, A+.
To me, that would be no. I would not give him. If he's an A, Elko's an A. If Elko's a B+, he's a B+.
This is how I settled this debate. Michigan State wanted Mike Elko.
Did they?
Yeah, they wanted him. He was in the mix. Okay.
All I know is,
and he wanted A&M.
The predecessor to Jonathan Smith at Michigan State.
Mike Riley?
No.
Oh, at Michigan State. Sorry. Mel Tucker. Yeah, I thought you were talking about Oregon State. Yeah.
Hyped up as what a great hire.
Yeah,
not so much.
I just want the same grading system. I don't think I'm asking for a lot. Okay?
Yeah, I just like I said. If you tell me that Elko and Jed Fish are the same grade, I'd say I get that 100%. Man, you are spot on. But then you throw out a guy who's never been a head coach, and you say, "Oh, now this guy is better. This is better than the guys who have gone and won at traditionally heinous programs."
Look,
but it's 24/7.
If Jonathan Smith had been hired at A&M and Mike Elko had been hired at Michigan State, do you think Mike Elko would have gotten the A?
I don't know. You know what? But here's the other thing. I don't care. I mean,
you care, but you don't care.
I'm looking at this from a writer standpoint. Say, well, how do you differentiate? And for the reasons I just pointed out, I don't know how you say a guy that wanted Arizona and a guy that wanted Duke is not a better hire than a guy that's never been a head coach, right? So, but
you would agree Kalen DeBoer is probably an A hire for Bama, right?
I have no issue with that.
Yep.
But ask me next January. Isn't that all that really matters?
Yeah. I mean, we're just filling time here on a radio show.
It's a good conversation, and like I'm saying, I don't get how. Like I said, I wish I knew who the guy that wrote this, but I don't know how this guy comes up. It might be a woman though, but whoever wrote it, I don't know how they come up with this grading system and justify the things we just talked about. And again, it's how do you?
I think it's Brad Crawford.
Well, I don't know him, but how do you take just take Elko out of it and they say, oh, you're homers. How do you take what Jed Fish did and say he's a B+ and a guy that's never been a head coach is an A?
Right.
So
actually, it was Adam Gorney of Rivals.
I do know Adam
Gorney of Rivals.
And I like Adam. But Adam made his bones, if you will, as a recruiting analyst. And Adam, if these are the kind of things you're coming up with, you need to stay.
Go back to recruiting.
And I like Adam. Nice kid up in, I guess not a kid anymore.
I think he was a kid when we worked with him at Rivals way back when.
In California, I think.
If you want to be part of the conversation this morning, you can do it. What kind of grade would you give Elko? What kind of grade would you give Kalen DeBoer or Alabama? All the stops. Duke with hiring Manny Diaz. University of Houston, Willie Fritz. We can talk about it. 979-693-1150. You can text that number or you can call us up at that same number. We'll pick it up on the Brian Foley Law hotline. Let's go around the room and say hi. We go behind the glass or beyond the glass. We find Nick Savage. Nick, good morning.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
Hello. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm good. Well, as y'all know, we're
I
about
barely hear Nick.
Say what?
I said I can barely hear you, Nick.
Do I need to speak louder? How about now? We'll work on that later.
Oh, it's getting better.
Okay.
I'm helping him out. I hate having the control of everybody's volume at this chair. New studio. No more control. Go ahead.
Yeah. 14 days away from opening day for Aggie baseball. Really excited about that. We asked our viewers.
Seems like
what
2
player.
weeks.
Yeah, it does. But what players are they most excited to see? And this is what they came up with. Obviously, Jace Lavalette leading the charge there. Braden Montgomery, the newbie, right behind him. No love for Ryan Targach, which is the new 12th man. Really surprising to see. If he gets back to form and he starts mashing home runs like he did a couple seasons ago, I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But I voted for Gavin Grahovic.
Yeah.
From what Bronny has told us about him, a true freshman who could be, right now, if he wanted to be, in the minor leagues, working his way towards the MLB. I mean, I'm really interested to see what the true freshman can do, especially in this stacked lineup. So,
well, I think, OB, tell me what you think about this. I think the fact that Targo is at 0.9% is actually a compliment to how good this freaking lineup is.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we've seen him. See, to me, it's Montgomery. Or really, to me, it's, pick out a pitcher.
Right.
I know Montgomery's going to pitch, though.
Yeah.
So Montgomery's the guy. He did great things at Stanford. Do some great things here. That's a problem. We've seen too many times guys do great things other places.
Be a one-year wonder at A&M.
Heck yeah.
There's been others, right?
Yeah.
Hunter Haas,
Micah Dallas,
and not just be the baseball version of Dexter Dennis.
I like that. Which basically Hunter Haas was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what else, Nick?
That's pretty much it on my end.
All right. Well,
so
that's
happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, buddy. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where we find a very eager Jackson Moss. Jackson, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, David. How are y'all doing?
We're doing well, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Feeling focused today. Really well rested.
Tell me a little bit more about your sleep routine.
Got about 6 hours last night.
That's
actually, I know it's not good at all, but I don't know. Today I woke up and just decided to feel well rested and focused today.
Crushed the coffee?
I did crush a coffee. I'm not going to lie to you. Had a little Dutch Bros. They got this protein iced coffee now. 22 grams of protein for a small. Not bad.
Sounds like
a sponsor.
That you two would be okay.
Not a sponsor.
Grams of coffee. I been up since 3. So at 5, I went ahead and I've been up. I went ahead.
So you just wake up at 3 and that's it? Like you can't go back to bed?
I was trying to. Well, so at 5, and I'm still awake.
Yeah.
I said, might as well get up and go to the gym.
What time
now.
do you go to bed?
Last night, I have to admit, I fell asleep early, like 9 o'clock.
Okay. Still not enough sleep, buddy.
It's not out of desire. I'm trying to sleep.
Good bed? Good mattress? Good pillow? When do you eat? Like, when was the last piece of food did you eat?
I ate a bunch of chicken at about 5:30.
Okay, that's enough time for it to
6.
digest. That's
Maybe
it?
6.
No snacking after? No grazing? Huh.
Like I said, I was asleep, and then 3 o'clock came. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to sleep. 5 o'clock came. I said, you know what? I can lay here for another hour or two. No, or I can get up and actually do something productive. So I went.
What if you started reading a book?
Huh?
What if you started reading a book? Would that put you to sleep?
I don't know. I usually go to sleep watching TV. TV puts me to sleep, but I'm not going to turn on the TV at 3 in the morning when Mrs. Buchanan is sleeping fine right next to me.
Worst thing for your brain to do is to watch TV for sleep. But hey,
it works for me.
No, it works for me too. But at 3 in the morning, not ideal.
Well, no, not especially again with the wife asleep next to me.
All right, Jackson, what else do you have for us, buddy?
So the Texas A&M men and women's swim and dive both face SMU today at 5 p.m. at home. The women's team is currently ranked 11th, and the men's team is currently ranked 8th. And then I'm kind of going to piggyback off of Nick here. 14 days until Aggie baseball's home opener, and I couldn't be more excited. The Texas A&M baseball team lands at number 10 in the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association preseason poll. This is the second year in a row and being ranked in the top 10 NCBWA preseason poll. Last year we were number 5. And Caitlin said it yesterday, but just a reminder that the number 9 Aggies women's tennis heads to Florida to take on Miami today. They're going to be playing here in a couple hours at 11 a.m. A&M currently holds a perfect record against Miami, 4-0, so I hope to make it 5-0.
Good stuff there.
I'm a fan of the women's tennis team.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you any of the players, but I like the coach.
The Dreamweaver.
The Dreamweaver.
Speaking of Aggie baseball, it really goes back to what you said you were interested in seeing, like more than the offensive players we talked about, the pitching. If the pitching is better than it was last year, they will live up to that top 10 billing.
Yeah, I think so. And again, that's why Max Wiener's here to make them better.
Yep. All right, let's hit a break. When we come back, we didn't get to 3 things we want to see brought to you by Brazzers Running Company, so we'll do that when we come back. We will also talk a little bit about some different changes in college football that's causing coaches to be like, I think I want to try the NFL. We'll talk about that. We'll get to your phone calls. But right now, we're talking Fargos. What did you think of the Nick Savage impression of Olin Buchanan?
I thought it was disrespectful,
yet
disparaging, I was fine up until the part where he goes, "It's true." Yeah, I like, come on, Nick, you punk.
Sounds like a little parrot.
But you know, even Nick can try to do a comparison with me.
Right.
But when it comes to Fargo's, there is no comparison.
There you go. Buddy.
Especially on a Friday.
That's right.
And wasn't he butchering that? Yes, he couldn't get his days all mixed up.
Today's a crunchy hush puppy day.
He doesn't even know that Friday is, in some religions, a day to eat fish, and that's why they have it on Friday. The 4 C's, the catfish, the coleslaw, the corn, and the crunchy hush puppies.
I'm not really a hush puppy guy. I don't hate it.
Oh, I love them.
It's just not one of my go-tos.
I love hush puppies.
When you eat at Fargo's, my voice cracked there, do you pick the protein first, or do you just kind of go a little bit of everything at one time?
I'm more of a protein guy. You know, I'm going to go there, and again, what draws me in, depending on the day, everybody knows Tuesdays and Saturdays, if I'm there, I'm going for the rib tips. If I'm going there on a Wednesday, man, I love that chopped beef.
I love to eat the chopped beef on a baked potato.
I do.
1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in Texas, i.e. the world.
You know that's their trademark?
Factual. It's true. It's true.
What's the name of the place?
Fargo's.
Thank you. It's Fargo's. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio, the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They can write any form of insurance to anyone in Texas and several other states, and they've got 45 offices right here in the great state of Texas, headquarters on Highway 6 here in College Station. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to RolloInsurance.com. It is the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, David Nuño, Olin Buchanan. OB, I think it's time to run our mouths with 3 things that we want to see this weekend, brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store, where you can find Brooks on Hoka shoes, located at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill. Do you got 3 things that you want to see this weekend?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same each week now, but I want to see Wade Taylor score 29 points or less.
Okay.
Because it seems like whenever he scores 30, the Aggies lose. I want somebody else. I want several other people to actually be productive and give him some help. So I want him to get some significant help in the scoring department.
Yep.
And I want to see the Aggies. Play some strong defense against. Actually, you know what? I want the Aggies to shoot a high percentage, because getting those offensive rebounds and relying on offensive rebounds the way they do may not work out so well against a good rebounding team like Florida,
who's trending in the right direction. Here are the 3 things I want to see. I'd like to see more up-tempo basketball. All right, I want to push the pace. Hopefully that means less threes, right? Unless they're good threes, right? Yeah. Up-tempo attacking the rim basketball. That's the first thing I want to see. I want to see them dominate what they do best, right? And if we were to break down what they do best, I think defense. I want them to dominate defensively. I don't know if they can dominate the glass against a team like Florida, who's pretty close to them as a dominant team. But if they can dominate maybe playing the lanes and leading to those fast breaks, for A&M to win it against a team that is basically built similarly to you, but they score significantly more, they're going to have to be at their best defensively, and they're going to have to get some easy buckets in that game. That team scores 12 more points a game than A&M does.
All those things are true. And they got a big, I think, a 7-footer. So getting into the lane, they need to draw fouls, because I don't know that they can count on scoring a whole lot of points in the paint.
The other thing I want to see is how about A&M women's basketball team getting a victory over a very, very good Mississippi State team at home. Get that victory this weekend. Get back on the winning side of things. Let's get them into the tournament. They need a big win this weekend.
That'd be great. Love to see that.
Yeah. We talk about Joni a lot on this show, but I really like her. And I think she is building something. Who was it? Yesterday, somebody on the show, maybe one of the fan show guys. They believe that they're about a year away. Let's make that year now. Let's get to that tournament right now.
Well, they are significantly better than they were last year with all the trials and tribulations they had and all the youth and inexperience. It's a process.
It is
so
a process.
far, the process is going pretty well for her.
So yesterday was the East-West Shrine game. I did not watch it, but I did have some folks in the back watch it and give us some updates. Looks like Edge Cooper did not play in that game. He I guess did miss the practice or 2 and did not play in that game. Damani Richardson did play, didn't really register any stats out there. I hope he doesn't hurt his chances. I hope he had some great conversations with coaches out there and gets an opportunity.
I hope he does too, but I think so much of Damani's future may depend on the 40 times he runs.
Yep.
Because he can play. Yeah, I don't think he had his best year this year, but he can play. I'll always go back to that interception he made against Alabama. He actually made 2 interceptions against Alabama, but I'm talking about the
big one.
The big one in that win.
The Arkansas game, taking the ball from
heady player.
Yeah.
He also picked up the fumble that Edgerrin Cooper caused against LSU and changed that game.
He absolutely did.
Heady player.
This weekend is tomorrow, I think at noon, Senior Bowl, right? And we're going to have Anais playing in that bad boy, Layden Robinson playing in that bad boy, and McKinley Jackson.
Yeah. I actually saw something on Twitter today from the Senior Bowl, and it was praising what they've seen from Anais Smith in practice.
Good.
And I'm not surprised. Anais Smith's just a football player.
Put him on I think I saw he's either spoke to or is going to speak with the Texans this weekend.
Yeah, I can see that. I think he has a really good future as a slot receiver in the NFL.
Give him a chance. And then before we hit a break, I'm going to read this out to you. Calvin Watkins, buddy of mine.
I know him.
Good dude. Reports former Vikings head coach and Cowboys defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer is interested in the current vacant Cowboys gig. A person with knowledge of his said.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. To be the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, to be the DC.
To replace
I like
Dan
Mike
Quinn.
Zimmer as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I do too. I don't have any issue with that at all.
Apparently, the Cowboys are also going to interview Ronald Rivera.
Ron Rivera.
There's a report out about that one.
I like him. I'm glad he's no longer with the Commanders, so I don't have to hate him.
I bet you're happy AG didn't go to the Commanders. Aaron Glenn.
Yes, I am.
That would be hard for you.
A little known factoid. I hope I don't have this wrong. I don't think I do. Mel Kiper, way back in 90-something, was all upset, might have been 80-something, that the Cowboys drafted Texas A&M's Billy Cannon instead of Ron Rivera. Excuse me.
Take a bit. Get a little drink right there.
Ron Rivera was a good linebacker at Cal. So got to throw in Cal.
You need a hug? I think you're getting a little emotional about this.
No, it's just whatever. Choked me up, man. But Ron Rivera is a good football coach. I would have no problem with him as the defensive coordinator.
Would you prefer Zimmer or you don't care?
No, to me, that's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, as my mama used to say.
It's like Fran Brown or Mike Elko, right? Oh, wait.
No, I'm taking Elko.
100%. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with a couple more things. And Chip Kelly, interested in going to the NFL. There's a trend happening there in college football. Right now we're talking about Chance McClain and Heritage Films. They make documentary films about families. They make documentary films about your family business, your family ranch, excuse me. And if you haven't really considered it, take a moment to really think about what that could mean, like the whole situation, right? Your grandfather is still doing great and has a lot of stories to tell. Let's get it captured. So that way you don't have to play the game of telephone with your kids and their kids and their kids, because the stories feel like they change. Like you don't get the essence, the feel, the vibe, and you'll get the voice, obviously. With a Heritage Film, that story is now going to be preserved for generation after generation. We did it with my dad. We've also done the Year Flicks, which is more of the 20-minute videos. We did that with Annalise. We need to do it with the other kids. Benchmark videos where you get to know your kid on a different level. They are fantastic. Highly recommend either one, either the Year Flicks or the Heritage Film. Again, the documentary film, about 2 hours, Netflix-style, HBO-style documentary. And the Year Flicks, 20-minute styles, benchmark video where you get to know your kids from a different perspective. Freshman year of college, follow up by the sophomore year, junior year, they get their Aggie ring, and you know the rest of the story. 4-part story right there. The website, yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com. 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341. And we are back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. And at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, that's where we find Jackson Moss. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. We'll get to some text messages here. Jackson, start us off with a couple before we move on to our next topic.
Yeah, so I got Chad right here, and he says, someone once said the toughest guy in the room does not have to tell everyone he's the toughest guy in the room. Jimbo and the Ags didn't get it done until Elko and the Ags get it done, the national media will be doubters.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
they got to prove it. Yeah, but Sark's got to prove it in the SEC, and Lane Kiffin's got to prove that he can get over the hump now with the talent that he has. Everybody's got something to prove. Kalen DeBoer's got to prove that he didn't just do it at Washington. You got to keep reproving yourself
every year. Every year.
And then each year removed from the height of success, your image could be turned. Like Jimbo, was on top when I got here. He was a top 5 coach,
right? And then he wasn't. Ed Orgeron won a national championship 1 year. 2 years later, he's fired. Gene Chizik the same, right? So you have to prove yourself every year.
Reminder, the dedication of the new R.A. Murray Faskin indoor track meet starts today at 2 o'clock. A&M does not compete today. 6 state universities tomorrow, including A&M. Home meet, Charlie Thomas Invitational running begins at 10 a.m. Coach Henry listening to the show. Coach Henry, thanks for coming in this week. Appreciate your time. So make sure everybody goes and checks that out. All right, OB, I got a little topic for you. So apparently Chip Kelly wants out of college football. He interviewed with the Raiders, did not get that gig. Mm-hmm. Cliff Kingsbury ended up getting that gig. He wants the gig in Washington. I'm not sure if he's interviewing there just yet, but he represents a growing trend in college sports of coaches, and I don't know if old school is the right way to phrase it, but coaches wanting to leave. There's been several. I looked at the stat here. Let's see. Kelly could become the 4th sitting head coach to leave his job voluntarily since the season ended. Boston College's Jeff Hafley. You also have, let's see, South Alabama coach Kane Womack, Buffalo coach Maurice Linguist, all left to become NFL coaches at some level, coordinator positions or less. And that's just interesting because what it seems to me, and the big one who didn't go to the NFL, Nick Saban, retired from the game. It could have been because it was time. It could have been because what this gig is becoming. Mm-hmm. I tend to think that's more why it happened this year. It is a 24-hour job, 7 days a week, and you have to be willing to adapt with the times, and not everybody is willing to do that.
Yeah, and, part of this also, there's another factor, is that the NFL is more open to hiring college coaches now. So you've got that. So there's more opportunities. But yeah, now you're in a deal as a college coach. Recruiting's always, for a lot of coaches, have been the necessary evil of college. Oh, gosh, I got to go. Okay, let's get on a plane. Let's drive here. But you got to do it. All right. So you say, okay, well, I've really got to do this. Well, now I've got to do it. And then I got to re-recruit the guys on my team while I'm trying to get some high school guys. And then I got to get into the portal. And so I can see if you've done this for a long time and you're set financially and you're thinking,
is it worth it?
Well, when do I have time off? It's like I said, it was bad enough in the old days, just the old days of just a couple of years ago, when you just recruited.
But you're just recruiting in windows. Now you're re-recruiting your roster year round.
And I would think that makes it really hard to coach, because not only do I got to get this guy to understand what we're trying to do and developing, but I can't hurt his feelings.
Right.
So the NFL calls, and they say, "Hey, you know what? We're interested." Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'd be glad to come rescue me from this. But it's a problem that college football created for itself. And quite frankly, if college football coaches weren't the type to bend rules and break rules and tamper and all the things that then you have to do because they're doing it, and if I don't, I'm going to be all these things. It's a problem that college football and college football coaches have created for them, and the NCAA and all these things have created for themselves. So it's it's hard to feel bad for them. But, yeah, I can see where, especially if you have a family, you say, the NFL's tough enough, but at least I'm going to have some time.
People say it's not sustainable, this current college football model, but nothing is sustainable under that thinking because it's been 3 years of this, and it's going to be longer.
I don't know how you're going to change it.
Yeah.
How are you going to change it? There's some of the dumbest things I hear, and there are people that are supposed to be that are smarter than me, that are national college football commentators and reporters, and they say stuff like, well, they got to start paying the players so, to get a handle on this. And the NIL. Paying the players is not going to get a handle on NIL. The Supreme Court ruled that the players have the right to go out and make money on their name, image, and likeness, and that's independent of the university.
Right.
So I don't. You're going to say, "Oh, we're going to pay the players a salary." Okay, well, yeah, but this guy, I'm going to take this salary, but this guy over here wants to pay me to endorse his business and my name. I'm going to do that. No, you can't under our rules because we have these new rules. The Supreme Court says I can, and the Supreme Court's going to trump your rules.
What is going to emerge, though, are coaches who redefine the game, who are able to maximize this opportunity, and this is going to be the new gold standard for them. Go ahead.
Yes, those guys that are able to adapt, adjust, and then flourish under this are going to be the next wave of great coaches.
Let's use our industry, for example. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, there was the industry changed to where social media became a bigger importance. You got to be first on social media. And then this allowed for, and I don't mean this as a shot, internet journalists to start getting a little bit of clout, right? And it's changed the game a little bit to where you can make a name for yourself on the YouTube channel. And if you are a journalist who has not adapted with the times, you may be no, but you tweet and but there are some that, and like, I'll give examples. By the way, John McClain apparently has been let go from Sports Radio 610. He retired from the Chronicle a year ago. It was first time in, I think he said 35 years. He won't be on the radio in Houston. But he is an example of a guy that probably didn't want to, and Mark Berman as well, do all the social media things that they had to do, but they had to adapt. And after a while, they tapped them out. And I think that's what we're seeing in college football and college athletics overall. I mean, Coach K, there's other examples, right? Jay Wright, like it just, the direction it's going, it ain't worth it for my time.
I think it's going to be more of a younger man's game. I mean, it already is, but even more so. I could see more and more coaches in the future getting out, at least from college, in their 50s. It may someday be rare for the guys who are in their 60s and 70s because it's just too much. But again, why is that the case? I blame them for almost everything. Mark Emmert, for when all you were doing was sitting on your ass for all those years, cashing $3 million a year checks, and saying, "Oh, we're not going to make any change to something that everybody in the world can see is coming. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to let the government do our jobs. They're going to tell us what to do." And then the government told us what to do, and it wasn't what Mark Emmett wanted. And again, we have the chaos that we have now. So this was what college football allowed to happen.
And for it to be fixed,
I don't think it can be fixed.
Exactly. But I'm somewhat fixed would be breakaway own league, have rules. That'd be the only way.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see how this whole Tennessee thing with the NCAA comes out and Florida State, because there are no rules. They're saying you're breaking the rules that there are none, because the rules are all about, right, from what you can do at your state.
Well, and I'm curious who's next. Right? Like, I feel like whatever Tennessee has done in their eyes is being done everywhere.
Yeah, supposedly they let the quarterback fly from California on a private jet. So that's the line in the draw, where you draw. No flying on private jets. Okay.
And then certain universities go through these investigations for 2, 3, 4 years, and then it's just like a little slap on the wrist. And
LSU, you mean?
Oh, did I stutter? So, All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with bank on it. OB, I want you to think about something you're going to bank on. I've got one for you. Right now, if your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together throughout the year for marquee events such as Aggie Ring Day, Aggie Hullabaloo, The Gathering. They welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of all those attendees. They offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand, with title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition, and social media posts, and much, much more. Also, there's advertising opportunities in the Texas Aggie magazine and the Aggie newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with other Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. We're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. B-Glow reminds us Chris Peterson retired because of all the changes in college football. That is true.
And he got out before all the
right before it got even
crazy.
more crazy. Yeah. It is Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, it is now time to bank on it, and that is presented by Vera Bank, authentic relationship-based banking built for real life. Go see Joel Jackson and the team. Learn more at verabank.com. What are you banking on, buddy?
Well, I'm banking on, among other things, Wade Taylor scoring 29 plus. You know, I mean, he averages 20 now.
Yep.
And he's going to have to score. I am banking on the Aggies shooting a much higher percentage from the free throw line.
What would that be? Like 73%?
Well,
77%?
It needs to be 70 plus.
Mm-hmm.
They shot, 55 or 54% in their last game? And I'll tell you this, too. I am banking, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am banking on an A&M win. You know, remember when Kentucky came in and A&M beat Kentucky, and then after the game, John Calipari said he told his guys, look, this is a desperate team. Well, if these Aggies aren't desperate right now,
we got problems.
It's a problem because they got a tough schedule in the SEC and coming up, and Tennessee twice, and look what South Carolina's doing, and Alabama. You know, they're still waiting some away games where they've struggled. So this is a big win. They need to win. They need to be desperate.
I'm going to say McKinley Jackson's going to have a sack this weekend. Okay. I know that he's not like your sack guy, but I think he's breaking through for a sack, and he's going to show up well in the Senior Bowl. I believe that. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Layden Robinson has a nice game or Aniyah Smith has a nice moment. But if I'm banking on something, I'm banking on McKinley Jackson getting a sack in that one.
Okay. A sack for Mount McKinley.
Mount McKinley, let's do it. We'll close up with some more basketball thoughts because not only is this game so critical, OB, just the way they play to me is going to be very critical because what you just said right there, they should be desperate. They've had a few days to kind of rest, get their mind right, practice, focus on certain things. If we get out there and see some of the same bad three-point shots and bad free throw shooting, you've got to take advantage of this break and of this homestand, and you've wasted some opportunities.
Without a doubt, you need to take advantage of any opportunities you have, and you've had a whole week to get ready to make changes. I'm sure Buzz has made some changes.
Yep.
So he's had a week to figure some things out. But, you know, they shot the ball from three-point range fairly well in their last game against Ole Miss. So one of the things that they're going to have to do is look at what they didn't do in the last game, right? You got to finish strong. I'm talking about the half and the game.
Yep.
And that's been kind of an issue. And avoid – I know they want to, but you got to find a way to avoid the long scoring drought, which has, you know, been a problem at times this year.
Yeah, you cannot have scoring droughts, and especially, you know, we talk about the things we want to see them play faster, but if you start the game strong, please end the game strong as well. Let's just play a complete game. The Kentucky game was a complete game pretty much, right?
Yeah. And look, we understand you're not going to score every time you get the ball. We get that. But, you know, you can't have those go 4 minutes without scoring, you know, and it needs to be field goals.
Yep.
I mean, you'll take them any way you can get them, but I love seeing them at the line, but they haven't been as reliable at the line this year as they had in the last couple of years. And so that's a concern.
That is a concern. OB, so you think we'll be talking about an Aggie victory, huh?
Again, they're at home. They've had a week off, and they should be – I mean, I'm sure they play with a sense of urgency all the time, but you've got to ratchet it up. I mean, this is – every one of those guys, I think, need to understand. And I don't know how Buzz approaches it. Maybe he doesn't put that much emphasis on it, but I think you got to understand this is a must-win. You lose this one, you're 3-5 with the schedule you have in front of you, and they're going to win some games that some people will doubt that they're going to win. But you probably got to get to 10-8 to feel really good about getting in the NCAA tournament.
Have a great weekend, buddy.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll have a great day Saturday covering a win for the Aggies.
Hopefully so. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, the Mark French in studio. Yeah, we always talk in Zoom in his awesome office. He's already got a nice little, what do you call those life preserver jackets that Gabe used to wear, the sleeveless? He's got one of those nice ones on. He's got one of those looks. He looks good. We'll talk to him next here on TexAgs Radio. So I've talked to this dude for, a year and a half? First time we've ever met in person. Weird when you're friends with somebody on Zoom, but not in real life. Well, we are in real life, but you know what I mean. I haven't met you. What's up, Mark?
Totally.
How you doing?
It's great to see you, David. Great to be in here. You know, when Gabe and I first started doing this many years ago, after I wrapped up playing, I guess not too many years ago, but we used to do this more often. And so it's always fun to be in here, and it's great to put a face to a name, and heard so many good things from like 4 or 5 different sources about you. So
good. Well,
it's great to be here.
Well, I'm happy that you're here. Mark French with us, obviously, here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Every game's a must-win, right? But for sake of conversation, for this season, this is as must as it gets, considering you're going to have some more in the future, right? Like, even if you win this one, you got a lot more to do, but for just the momentum where you are, to stop the bleeding, I should say, you got to have this one against Florida.
Yeah, it's a another home game against a team that's kind of an equal to you, a peer, so to speak, in the standings, but also just all the rankings and stuff. And so coming off a home loss to Ole Miss, in which, a lot of people had kind of penciled that one in as a win, and Beard has those guys playing really well right now. Like we talked about last week's show, we need a big crowd. We need the guys to come out juiced up, and we got to find a way to, whatever formula we got to figure out that Buzz has in his mind that leads to winning. We have to execute on that. You can't go to 3-5 in SEC, because then we're talking about, is NIT in place?
Right.
And so there's this pendulum swing that's occurred because of what's transpired over the last, 7-8 days, and really since the Kentucky win. So we'll see where it goes.
Let's play this game, perception game, right? After we played LSU the first time, maybe LSU's better than we thought. Right. Okay? You beat Kentucky. Look, we're back. And then Kentucky's had some issues recently. You lose to Ole Miss. Man, Ole Miss looks like their team. They're on the rise. You should have beat them, but they're on the rise. Which is true? Like, which one is it? Is it maybe all the above? Yeah, those teams are better than we thought, but A&M is worse than we thought.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes things aren't mutually exclusive, and we try to make things really black and white, and, there's so many variables that go into this stuff, and I think the Kentucky win was a good win, because you look at, they were number 6 at the time, I believe. Now, LSU, when we played them, it was I believe it was the first game back for their best guard, right? So they're getting I think he's a 5th-year senior. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but you're getting a big-time guard back, and everything kind of seemed to gel for them, right? And we came out flat. Like the Arkansas game, that was one we've been over multiple times. Should have had that one. Ole Miss is different. I think that was one that was kind of off my radar a little bit. I was probably wrong the last couple weeks when I told y'all that they had played a cupcake schedule. They didn't really play anyone in non-conference, which was true, and so.
But they adjusted well.
And they're so well coached, and they just played hard, man, and that was a tough one. But you got to regroup now. So there's no break in the SEC in this conference now. It's not like it used to be. This is a basketball conference, very much so now, and you could very easily be, 36 hours from now, you could be 3-5 and going, how in the heck are we even going to make the tournament? Or you win it and you're 4-4 and you go, all right, 8 or 9 seeds still in play if we go, win versus Tennessee or whatever. So,
well, let's talk about the road to get there is going to be the shooting. And you've kind of looked into some of the metrics out there, some of the issues. And is there anything that is good when you look at those numbers?
Yeah, so like A&M's offense, if you look at it, it's like a top 30, 40 offense in the country. Now, why is that? You dig deeper, it's because of the offensive rebounding. We're number 1 in the country in offensive rebounding. Now, some of that is you'd almost rather not be number 1 because it means you're probably not making a ton of shots on the first try. So there's a balancing act, certainly. But I think it's just going to come down to, developing a couple guys. It doesn't even have to be the whole team. It's Jace Carter, probably, if you were to look at it. It's Boots and Wade. They're going to have to hit a combined, 6-7 threes a game, which isn't asking a lot, right? It's 2 or 3 apiece. I think you're probably going to see them ice out Hefner just a little bit. Maybe the same thing with Manny, because the minutes are getting too precious and the possessions matter too much to have any sort of turnovers or, shooting slumps from guys that aren't core guys.
You bring up Manny, and he's one of those guys that I thought had he taken a step forward, he could really help this team. He's an interesting one because he's got all the potential in the world. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out in the fact of serious minutes these last couple of years. There's been injuries. There's been some production issues. When he's on, he's really good, but it hasn't been consistent.
No, it hasn't. And so this is a guy, obviously I've known about Manny for a long time. Coming out of Dallas, really highly rated kid, 5-star by some sites, 4-star by almost everyone else. He looks the part. Just first guy off the bus type guy. And warm-up lines, he's, going between his legs and doing all these crazy dunks and stuff. And you're like, that's what they're supposed to look like. And then what I think's happened is, one, you're behind Wade and Boots, which doesn't stunt your development. It's just like you're not going to be the primary focus. And there's some development that would have occurred had he been a main focus maybe. But at the same time, you got to earn that right. And I think if Manny were to really be honest with himself, he hasn't earned that right because he's been a little reckless with the ball at times. The shot hasn't developed as much as we'd like. Again, I'd love to see the shooting logs of what everyone's done over the last 180 days in terms of just in their spare time. But he's an interesting one, right? It's an enigma because that's a guy that should have hit. It should be.
Yeah.
And I can't quite figure it out either.
Well, let's talk a little bit deeper into some of that because I feel like this team has a lot of players that are maybe their output is not similar, but their potential is similar. And one thing that they have done, I would say a poor job of doing, is finding real shooters. Why is that? Is it hard to, is it because the athletic, sometimes when you're a really good shooter, you're not athletically gifted and to play in the SEC, it's hard to guard those guys, or?
No, certainly the athleticism in this conference, it will surprise guys coming from a mid-major. Maybe you see the shooting dip a little bit just because closeouts are tighter.
Yep.
The windows, the timing, there's not as many coverage busts a lot of times. The coaching's better. But the reality is, I think just, if we were to just zoom out and say what's going on here, I think college basketball as a whole is it's harder to find continuity.
Yep.
It's harder you can't redshirt a guy and develop him. You can't, tell the guy, hey, you're going to be 2 years in development, and then you're going to play as a junior and senior. And it's really stunted. The whole thing's so jacked up now, David. I really worry about it. I'm not, if I were to just be truthful, I'm not as passionate about it as I once was because it's so many moving parts. How do I get to know these guys?
And that's in all college sports, right? Not
all
just
of
basketball.
College sports. It's really frustrating. And so I think that leads to some of the shooting stuff because, Buzz is such a systems guy and such a development guy. And if he would have had a guy for 3, 4, 5 years, I think that would have occurred. But it hasn't. And so you almost have to just go, I don't know if it's pay, but you got to go get the best portal guy, the best shooters. And I think we probably missed on a wing or two this year. Eli Lawrence is an interesting case study in that one. I think second team all defense at MTSU last year. And that was a guy they maybe needed to hit and it didn't. But I think Jace Carter is a hit. And I think his shooting will jump next year. There's no doubt in my mind.
I'm glad you brought him up because I was going to ask you about him. I watch him play, and I'm like, it looks like he can shoot.
Yeah.
I know the production was there elsewhere, but when I watch his frame, his form, I feel like they're going to go in. They just haven't gone in.
Beautiful form, and really what you're saying when you say that is that he shoots with confidence. And when you watch a guy who shoots with confidence, it is so clear. It just exudes out of him like, hey, I think this shot's going in. And then you contrast that, overlay it with some of the other guys on A&M's roster where it's like, oh, I'm shooting because I'm supposed to take this shot, not because
there's a difference.
I truly believe it's going in, and there's a psychology behind that. And but with Jace, the psychology's on the right side of the coin, and I think that kid could be really, really good for us. He's a buzz type of guy, but the form's beautiful. His frame is awesome. I'm really high on him. That's why I've been bringing him up a lot the last couple weeks.
So I don't think Boots is lacking for confidence, but I don't know if he shoots with confidence.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And I think he's streaky. I think in big games, especially the alpha Boots comes out, and he likes that big stage. And it's when everyone was throwing their hands up, and I was getting all these texts in non-conference, oh, Boots is washed, he's too old, and all this. It's ridiculous rhetoric, right? I was like, well, sometimes he's just been around so long that he just wants to be in the big games, and he's felt that, and it energizes him. And so I think I'm not worried about Boots down the stretch. It needs to happen. Games like tomorrow night, he needs to hit 2 or 3 threes. But it has to be other guys too.
If not Boots, all right, then who?
Well, Wade, obviously.
Wade's going to do his thing, right? We know Wade's going to get you 18 to 27 points, maybe even 30, right? Which apparently isn't good. But it is good. But
it's not great for our record sometimes when Wade goes over 30. No, certainly. I think that's why I think Jace is so important, because the stats would show you that Hefner maybe isn't a guy we can trust in conference play to make 2 or 3 threes a game. Do I love the kid? Yes. I think he's awesome. And
really nice non-conference, too.
I'm rooting for him, and he had a great non-conference. He shut the year down well last year. But the reality is, what have you done for me lately? And that's just the world we live in, especially in today's college sports. And so I think it's Jace. I think Boots, certainly, but Wade's just going to have to carry an inordinate amount, and we're going to have to figure it out. I think Solomon and Andy hitting the glass together is a great lineup. I don't mind Henry coming off the bench if he'll accept that. I think that will be hard for him to accept.
Yeah.
As it probably should be, and I'd be worried if it wasn't. I think that's good problems to have. But I think Andy and Solo give you your best chance to win with this current construct of the roster.
But as good as Solo has been at times, there needs to be more consistency there, right? Especially maybe on the offensive side.
Yeah, and there's hey man, 2 dribbles, get off of it max. We don't need any freestyling from him.
Do those conversations happen? Buzz will bring you in, look what you're doing here. Okay.
100%. So that'll be literally in the coach's office the next day or in film review. It'll get brought up. And I'm telling you, they literally have a binder, and there's all these different stats they're trying to hit according to the formula that it's like mad scientist stuff. It's really fascinating.
Completely different than other places you've seen?
Completely different than how BK had it or my friends across the country. It really was fascinating to me. I learned more in that 1 year than I did the prior 3 years combined, just from how do I look at this? How do I analyze this? As a player, not just as a fan or now somewhat in quasi-sports broadcasting, but
can it become paralysis by analysis for some?
And I think that's where some guys just overthink, and that's when Buzz and the staff, they won't write anything on the board prior to the game. They'll just be like,
go play,
hit the boards, let's make some shots, play hard. And I think that's kind of where we're getting to the point in the season where it's like, hey man, I'm not gonna sit here and write an hour's worth of stuff up here for us to analyze. The reality is that we got to find a way to make shots, and we got to hit the boards and play hard defense. So I do think Solo's one of those guys where you got to let him be loose. You got to let him be himself, while at the same time holding him accountable to, not being reckless on the offensive end.
Tell me if this is a valid concern. Next year, Nuño making an appearance here. Finishing strong here could have a huge impact on bringing guys back next year, because there's a chance, I forget if Henry has eligibility, but Wade certainly does. I think Henry does. Okay. Jace, obviously. There's guys that can come back and play longer. But will they want to come back if this team flutters? And that's an individual position. And I think when it comes to Buzz, players want to play for Buzz. So I don't see this as a place that people really mass transfer or check out the NBA if they're a bubble player, right?
Right.
But it is important still in today's world of college athletics to finish strong, to keep a core together.
I'll say it like this. If you don't think that Kentucky, Kansas, Texas, I don't know, any of these other schools, USC,
don't want Wade
or haven't contacted his high school coach or his people, you're out of your mind. And that's how this stuff works. And I completely disagree with it, but it's where we're at in the landscape, given the poor leadership from the NCAA and given the poor leadership from really just the conferences as a whole, not stepping up and saying enough's enough. But there's certainly guys on this team that are going to be contacted. And so finishing strong, absolutely. I don't think this season's wasted. I really don't. I think if you look at, Hop had a great article on TexAgs that I was reading. By the way, if you don't read his stuff, you totally should. A ton of great little nuggets and content there. He was talking about Buzz Williams' teams, if you take out the COVID-21 season, how they finished the year. And it's 28-15 or something, right? Really strong. And so I think you'll see that happen. There's usually a crescendo at the end of the year, and because they keep working, they're not one of those that we're just going to get treatment or therapy and then get shots up. They'll continue to practice hard and develop, and so we'll see.
I'm going to play a role here and tell me if I'm – as long as A&M makes a tournament and is competitive in the first round, wins a first-round match, we're going to consider this year a successful year, even though – I don't know why I said it like a pastor there, but even though top 15 aspirations, that's how they started the season, but for where this program has been and what we can expect with maybe the level of players – that Buzz recruits, and again, a specialty. He wants certain types of brains and athleticism, right? Is that good enough this year if we take a step back? Or no, we should be, no matter what, Sweet 16 type of team.
Yeah. So the kids today would call that was a very mid-year, right? Or whatever they say. It wasn't,
by the way, you're a kid.
It wasn't exciting, right? It wasn't.
To me, you are. I'm sorry.
No, totally. You start preseason, where were we, 14th, 15th, 16th, and you got the preseason SEC Player of the Year in Wade, and there's an expectation, right? Mm-hmm. And we've talked a lot about this athletic department and underachieving on here over the course of time and why that may be or whatever. And I think, at some point, this program, I think we've raised the floor, but at some point you kind of need to go to a Sweet 16. If you want to keep donors interested, especially with NIL, especially with a new arena, hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, like you got to have some sort of track record in March. Right. And I completely get we've raised the floor. I think BK was it was really good when it was on, and there were some poor years too.
Yep.
But I think Buzz has certainly raised the floor. But I think especially when the offensive product maybe isn't as exciting, you really need March results, because you got to have something to sell. And I still believe in this staff. I think it's one of the better staffs in the country. I think there's a lot of continuity. I do think there's some pressure on them to go win a game in March to cool kind of the chatter off. And hey, I'm a fan too. Like, I want to see them go to a Final Four. I want me and you to be in Phoenix one year doing this show prior to tip-off, right? Right. And anyways, it's just frustrating. You start top 15, and now we're like, are we even going to be in the tournament? And so, the reality is Marble, that situation hurts. You were without some guys for injuries. Boots was in and out.
Let me, I don't want to say counter, but let me give you, I think part of the problem is that we did that song and dance with football a couple times.
Yeah.
Right? And with football, just, new regime, thank goodness, we feel better about it. But, we played that game in 21. Oh, if Haynes King doesn't go down, and there's these ifs that, unfortunately, this program has gone through. Baseball, I think they finished strong last year, considering how it felt mid-season with the pitching. And then, they didn't win in Stanford, but they came so close to it. They left you thinking, all right, I'm okay. We need that from this program. And if that means Sweet 16, or if that means – it does not mean NIT. Let me go ahead and tell you. It does not mean the NIT. They've got to get in the tournament. I think if they get in the tournament and try to make some noise, then I feel – all right, it wasn't the year we expected, but I'm okay with it.
No, totally. And, I talk a lot about, I've been over this many times. I didn't grow up in Aggie. I didn't even grow up in Texas. But I did grow up in the Deep South and SEC territory. And when I talk about, the conscience of the fan base, or, the psychology of the fan base at A&M, it's really unique, because there's this expectation, given the money and the facilities and just, the wide-spanning breadth of this university and culture. And the reality is that at some point you got to punch through. And especially at a football-centric school, there's a trickle-down, right? So, it's so easy. Even if you go on the message boards, it's like, oh, this is just 2021 all over again, or whatever. And so the reality is that across all sports, the level of expectation needs to be met. I think the expectations are there. I don't think the results have met it. And, basketball, it really wouldn't take much. One Sweet 16, and then,
they'll build a statue.
Oh, my gosh, they'll build a statue. And I think get into the tournament this year, right? Talk about raising the floor. That'll be 2 straight years in the tournament, right? Mm-hmm. And then sometimes things just take off from there. Then we figure out Wade's situation. We figure out Henry. We go find a Boots replacement in the portal.
Yep.
And all is suddenly well. Buzz is starting to be talked about as A&M's all-time winningest coach. Is that over the next 3 or 4 years? Could that happen? There's a lot of different, stuff like that could happen. And so I'm still intrigued. I think they can make the tournament.
Stick around for one more segment?
Sure.
All right, we'll talk to Mark French here on TexAgs Radio. Real quick, we'll talk, I'll take my time, Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell. They're online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. If you're looking for a vehicle now or in the future, I want you to bookmark caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. You got kids that are about to start driving, that's the place to go. You think about trading in because you need a bigger vehicle for your growing family, that's the place to go. You want to downsize, that's the place to go for several reasons. The great customer service is top. Is the top reason for me, right? We're talking complimentary pickup for service. We're talking about an incredible sales staff. We're talking about great value in your trade-in. We're talking about a great deal. All those things combined make going to Caldwell Country Chevrolet the place to go to buy your next vehicle. It's about a 15-minute drive, not far at all, from the very edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Mark French in studio with us. I wish we could do this more regular, like you coming in, man. It's been good.
Maybe we'll switch up the schedule a little bit. Try to do that a little bit more.
Maybe I'll go to your awesome office and do the show, and you do it from here. I love your views.
Y'all are welcome anytime, man. We'll get the whole setup, and I'll have some people move some things around.
I went through this with Logan. I want to bring it up with you. Close games that this team has played in. And I just looked at a couple teams that were close to where they are, and how many games of 6 points or less. Did you hear this conversation? Okay.
Keep going on the thought train, though. This is good.
Because to me, like, when you look at some of these games, right, SEC teams, Georgia, who is in the same ballpark, if you will, A&M is trending in the wrong direction, but same ballpark. They had 6 games of 6 points or less, right? Florida had 7 of 6 points or less. A&M, in SEC play alone, 5, which is kind of expected in SEC play, right? Those are going to be close games, but 8 overall. Not a significant difference, but 2 games that come down to a possession or 2 is a big deal.
No, it's huge. And you just, if we were sitting here today and we were talking about them being, call it 5-2 or whatever, that's how fragile this stuff is. Like, that's how, like, coaching staffs and players, like, there's the ramifications and the ripple effects the margins are just so slim. And, it's executing at the end of the game. It's going over this stuff in practice. It's going over every single scenario. It's going over film. It's watching film of other teams at the end of the games, knowing tendencies. You really got to lean on your assistants there. But the Arkansas one just absolutely wrecks me because I know what that could have catapulted into. And that's the
Arkansas's not good.
They're 107th in KenPom. And they got, speak of issues, holy cow, they got all sorts of issues internally right now. That I really would rather not speak on the air. But,
internet rumors.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff if true. But you can't lose that one. And there's been a little bit of a ripple effect since that game, I feel like.
Yeah, there has been. But again, I'm like, we've kind of been seeing it all year long. And thank goodness that a Buzz team does not quit. And that's the price of admission to play sports, in my opinion. You can't. That's in here. But because the Iowa State game could have gotten out of hand, the U of H game, they didn't end up winning, but it made you feel like, okay, here we are.
Had a shot.
There's too many of these that you fall behind by big digits, double digits, and you're like, they're going to come back. You just don't know if they can finish the deal, which begs me to bring up, is it more important the fast start or the finish? You don't have to pick one or the other, but the reality is both are very important.
No, I think the fast start for this team, honestly, probably is a little bit more important, and you just wonder why that is, right? You go back and you think about it. So Iowa State's up to like top 15 in the rankings by all the important tournament statistics, and so that's a great win, right?
Yep.
I think for me, it's I can live with the UH win. Their defense is phenomenal, by the way. But I think it's the Memphis loss at home. That was a chink in the armor that I think you win that one, you're like, oh, we beat Memphis, we beat Iowa State, we beat Ohio State at their place. Like, you can kind of start, there's a confidence, and sometimes when there's chinks in the armor, it doesn't show up till later in the season. You can kind of mask it. And so I think we're seeing a little bit of that. I do think those are repairable. I still think this thing's repairable, but you got to have all your guys healthy and available. That's a very big caveat for all this. If you don't have your guys, you can't expect to win. And so they've been battling that all year and probably will continue to do so. But close games that's what conference play is all about. And with experienced guards, you would think that we would thrive in that because usually that's what it comes down to is a high pick and roll and can the guard make a decision. And Wade's pretty good in those situations. Yeah. But defensively, we haven't been as good at the end of games as I thought we would be. And some of that may be because we don't have a center. But some of that scheme too.
Not a fair question to ask, but I'll ask it. How different, and I don't think it looks that different, but I do think it looks different, would it be had Julius Marble played?
I think it's very different.
Do you think they are one of the top 3 teams in the SEC in that world? Because I still think the shooting woes are there, maybe not as profound because you do have a post player.
I think the offensive scheme would have been slightly different. I think Julius is really good with his back to the basket. I think some of what that allows is when you have a guy like that, you can force doubles in the post, and sometimes those 3-point shots that are kickouts from the post are a little bit easier to make than Wade coming off a high ball screen and throwing it, and it's kind of slightly off kilter. You got to reset and shoot. Maybe it's Marble kicking it out to Wade, and then you get a one more pass where it's like you're just a regular shooting practice. So I think it would have been very different. I think the scheme would have been different, and I think rebounding, obviously, we're good offensively, but defensively, I think it would have helped. and honestly, just a mature presence, Nuño. You know,
so not a bubble team if Marble's there.
Not a bubble team. You know, Buzz talks about like it's a race to maturity, and I think anytime you got a third, fourth year guy from Tom Izzo's program at Michigan State, there is a floor there that's really high in terms of maturity, and I think that would have really helped solidify the core of this team, and that's not there.
All right, let's close out keys to the game tomorrow against Florida.
Let's put the ball in the basket. Maybe avoid a tight game late.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you're gonna have to have guys like Jace Carter and Solo show up. I think Andy, we kind of know what we're getting from him and Wade at this point. There's gonna be some swing guys. Maybe it's Levesque. I don't know. Maybe Eli Lawrence. I think he played 11 minutes the other night or something like that. Maybe that's 2 games ago. But it takes a village, man. They got to piece this thing together. You can't go to 3-5 and expect to make real headway into the tournament.
So if they lose tomorrow, you'd say the chances of making the tournament not as good. Obviously, they won't be as good. But like, do you think can they get out of that hole if they lose again tomorrow?
It's a tough hole to climb. You got a doubleheader with number 5 Tennessee still ahead. You got to go on the road to a few tough places.
I think Alabama, right?
At Alabama, who's number 8 in the KenPom rankings. So it's tough sledding, and that's why like the Arkansas game again, the LSU game at home. You got to take care of business.
The Ole Miss game.
You get behind. Yeah, literally. You get behind the 8 ball. It's really hard in this conference.
As good as I think Ole Miss might be, and I probably underrated them, I still think the reason I have such a problem with that game, losing to Ole Miss, I don't think is that. Let me see how I want to phrase this. It sucks to lose to anybody.
The manner in which it happened.
Yeah, because you were up. You were a possession away from seizing complete control 2 different times. I think you finished that half on a higher note than you finished. I mean, it was the lowest of lows, 10-0 run. Or you finished the game differently. You're up, 7 with a few minutes left, right? You either won. The way you lost that game is why that loss hurts that much more. The Arkansas game, I thought you played like absolute you-know-what, and then you took the lead. So, like, both of those games, they just hurt so much.
There's this killer instinct. There's this blood in the water that me as a competitor, I just get amped up over, and I feel it. I'll literally be watching the game with people be like, if they're going to show it, it's going to be right here. There's going to be some alpha energy come out on this possession defensively and say, no, y'all aren't scoring. And then we're going to pull away. We're going to have a tough, mature offensive possession where we move the ball. We're going to go get a good shot that we want, and this thing's going to be iced, and it's over. And that hasn't happened some late in games. And so I'd love to see a little bit of a killer instinct tomorrow. If we do get a 4 to 6 point lead and we're under 5-6 minutes, hey, let's blow this thing up to 10 or 11 points.
I'd like to see you play basketball against some of our staff one day. A little one-on-one. Not me, because I know you beat me, but
I'm just
against some of the other ones. Hey, thank you for coming in, brother.
It's great to see you. Great to be with y'all.
Thank you, brother. Right now, we're talking Milliken Reserve farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and they have a mission to build a healthy community around nature. And they've done that by treading lightly on the land that Milliken Reserve is found on, creating a sanctuary for family, for nature, and for community. They're dedicated to the conservation of a healthy community. They've got respect for that native landscape and that beautiful wildlife out there. 2,600 acres of open space, farms, and trails, right? It is a beautiful place. You got 30 miles of trails out there. They want to connect families to nature and to each other and make it a place that you all can either live or just visit and just make the most out of being outdoors and enjoying that beautiful landscape. They've got respect for that native species that find their homes there in those beautiful preserved woods out there. They got the white-tailed deer, the songbirds, the rabbits, the turtles, and homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you come back to that pristine countryside place. It is a place to go hiking, biking, canoeing, you name it. Go check it out. It is Milliken Reserve, the website, millikenreserve.com. Again, that website, millikenreserve.com. All right, everybody. Back on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in this morning. It is now time for our favorite segment of the week. It's called Around College Sports, brought to you by Milliken Reserve, a College Station community, featuring homes, trails, farms, and wide open spaces. They have a mission to build a healthy community around nature. Take part in the Milliken Reserve community with a Conservancy membership. Learn more at millikenreserve.com. We go straight to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That is where we find AT, Aaron Torres of Aaron Torres Online, and, of course, FSR, Fox Sports Radio. AT, what up?
Wow. Favorite segment of the week. That's some big shoes to fill. I'm nervous now.
Well, I mean, usually Billy's here at this time. Just kidding. What's up, buddy?
Oh, shots fired. Yeah, I was going to say, favorite segment that got bumped back today. See, I was trying to compliment you. You still threw a little, I wouldn't call it a full-fledged cheap shot, but it was a little jab there. There was a little cheap shot in there. It's okay. It's okay.
It's all love, buddy. How's the highway?
The highway's good. It's, Friday morning, people are off to work. It's kind of my day off. So so the cars blow by me, but I'm just sitting here taking in, a little chilly today, but the skies are clear. We got some heavy rainfall yesterday, so that kind of cool post-rain winter air. The cars are flying by. Is it really loud? I can take you off Bluetooth.
No. I love the kid because I care. You're my boy. Hey, let's. I saw you tweet something that caught my attention. I want to pose it from an A&M perspective. Kentucky loses again. Time to panic with a question mark. And I'm about to ask you that same exact question. We can get to Kentucky, but when it comes to our Texas A&M Aggies, is it time to panic?
I think so, and it's funny because I know, Dave, in all seriousness, I know really the last few years with the success of the Aggies, you always ask me, like, hey, what seed do you think we can get? And this is obviously basketball NCAA tournament. What seed can we get? Or, what do we have to do down the stretch to do this? And it's like, I'm not a bracketologist, and I don't really crunch the numbers the way a Joe Lunardi or Jerry Palm do. And so I want to bring it up because it seems as though the Aggies' computer numbers still reflect that they are a tournament team, or at least, in position if they do what they have to do. And what I would say is, especially this time of year, I'm more of an eye test guy, is how are you playing? What way are you trending, this and that? And so I will say, listen, I try to be glasses half full. I try to be optimistic. I do think losing, I guess if you want to call it a toss-up game, whatever, at home last week to Ole Miss. Listen, Chris Beard's a great coach. Everybody that's an Aggie knows his history, good and bad, but he's a great coach. But that is still in year 6 under Buzz or year 5 or whatever it is. At home, that is a game you should win. So I'm not sure what the latest bracketology updates project. I know that A&M still, again, in the computers look pretty good and are probably in pretty good position if they do what they have to do. But they've also lost some weird games that I do think, to answer your question directly, it is a little bit of a cause for concern because veteran team, you shouldn't be losing to LSU early in SEC play. You shouldn't be losing at home to Ole Miss, even if they've obviously made a significant coaching upgrade. So, yes, to answer your question, I do think it is a little bit time to panic, David.
And I'm a little bit more panicky because of the opponent coming up this weekend, Florida, a team trending in the right direction.
They're
4
good.
straight wins, beat Kentucky. Like, they look like the real team, and they do what A&M does really well. They offensive rebound the ball great.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to listen, I think this is where we are in college basketball right now. And I've said this for a few weeks, and as usual, Torres got ripped to shreds by all the quote-unquote experts. And, of course, what ends up happening 3-4 weeks later, they tell me that I'm right. They all come to the same opinion that I came to 3-4 weeks ago. But I was saying this 3-4 weeks ago, David, is I think with NIL in the portal, this is the first year, especially in college basketball, that we are seeing it's just pretty flat across the board. Like Florida, as you said, on a 4-game winning streak, that was a team that missed the tournament last year. South Carolina, which as long as I've been following college basketball has kind of been an afterthought, sitting at 18-3, 17-3, in position to potentially win the SEC. I mean, if you actually look at their schedule, they're in great position. Ole Miss, we just went over. And so I just bring it up solely to say that I do believe this is the year where college basketball is the playing field is as flat as I believe that I've ever seen it, at least at the power conference level. And I think Florida's a perfect example of that is if you watch them on Wednesday night at Rupp Arena, Kentucky's got all these freshman guys that are projected in mock drafts or whatever. And it's like Florida's just got a bunch of fifth-year guys that don't really care, that aren't really phased. The Walter Clayton kid who transferred from Iona, played at Rick Pitino there last year, had 7 threes, including the one that forced overtime and the dagger in overtime. You know, the Zion Pullum kid who was playing last year not far from where I'm standing right now at UC Riverside is just a really good fifth-year college player that bluntly, probably isn't going to be playing in the NBA, but can get buckets at the college level. So I just bring it up because Florida is really good, David, and I think they are playing, as you said, they're playing great basketball, but I also think it's a metaphor for where we are with the SEC and most of these major conferences where on a night-to-night basis, there really is no drop-off, and if you don't come ready to play, you can get beat.
Could you see Chris Beard leaving Ole Miss for Louisville?
So I'll tell you, David, this is kind of where my background is kind of covering both sports, I think is coming in handy. So why I say that is 2 years ago when the Auburn football job was open, Lane Kiffin was candidate. And the big story was, by Mississippi state law, they can't give him more than a 5-year contract, this and that. Why do I bring it up? They did some weird thing. Jimmy Sexton did some weird thing where they did the contract through the foundation, which I don't even fully know what that means. But basically, they were able to work around state law because he's not a state employee, that. So you probably say, Torres, what does that have to do with the question about Chris Beard? Why I bring that up is because I have somebody who I know who did a Freedom of Information request on Chris Beard's contract, and it is through the foundation, and it is not available for public access. I bring that up to say I don't know if he is going to leave because I don't know if you can get him out of his contract in 1 year. If you can, if the buyout is manageable, his history indicates that, hey, if there's a better opportunity, he will take it. That is every step of the way. One, I don't know if the buyout is just not feasible for him to get out of that contract. And then two, I think as important, does he feel like he owes maybe a debt of gratitude for Ole Miss, basically giving him a shot when nobody else would last spring? I don't know. And then, of course, obviously, the right job has to open. He has to be a candidate there. I know Louisville, which is kind of historically a pretty good job. It hasn't been good in a while. I know that they're probably going to have an opening. And I know in that market, there is very mixed reaction to the idea of bringing in a guy that was arrested. Now, the charges were dropped, but he was arrested for some very serious things at this time last year. So there's a lot of variables. I just don't feel comfortable saying one way or the other. Even the good jobs, I think he will be a 50-50 candidate in terms of if the fan base actually wants him, let alone if he wants it. So what I would say is I don't think it's a slam dunk that he's a one and done at Ole Miss, even if he continues to have the success that he's had so far early this season in Oxford.
Talking to Aaron Torres here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. The conversation we had earlier this show was, all these coaches from the college ranks either retiring, like Nick Saban and others have done, or maybe considering, this ain't worth it, man. Chip Kelly, I want to interview for as many offensive coordinator jobs as I can in the NFL, and there's been others too. What do you think about the current state of the old guard in college football, considering moving on from this 24-hour, 365 job it has become?
Yeah, I talked about this a little bit on my show today, the Aaron Torres podcast. I encourage people to check it out. I get why this is a topic, and I do think there are a lot of very successful people at the college football level that are sitting there saying, is this all worth it? And I think if there are real opportunities, they will take them. Now, I don't think that Jeff Hafley, a guy that was 22 and 26 going into his fifth year at Boston College, and probably would have been fired next year if he didn't have success, I don't think this is the place to draw the line in the sand and say, oh, college football is falling apart and nobody wants these jobs. It's like, okay, everybody knew Jim Harbaugh wanted to get back to the NFL. Nick Saban was 71, and I think, even if there was not as much chaos, my guess is that he was probably, he didn't have very much longer. And Jeff Hafley was going 22 and 26 at Boston College. So, and by the way, Chip Kelly, I live in L.A. I can tell you the fan base is very divided on him. I don't think they should be, but I think that's more of a byproduct of I don't think that he loves where college football is, I also don't think that he loves how his fan base treats him after winning, I think, 9 games in back-to-back years. I think maybe he went 8-5 this year. So I think that narrative, I get it. I also think it's a little bit overblown. And what I would also say, college football still has a lot of really talented young people. Like, if Kirby Smart left for the Falcons defensive coordinator job tomorrow, yeah, I think it's time to panic. But I'm not going to worry that coaches on the hot seat are looking at better options, well-paying options at the NFL level.
AT, great job as always, brother. Thank you so much.
I thought it was one of my better segments in a while. I appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
They're always good, dude. You bring it.
I know. I thought it was really good. I was really on maybe it's my Friday relaxation. I was chilling. It was one of my better ones, I got to say.
When was your last bad one?
I think September 21, I remember. The third week of September, I was like, wow, I really could have been better there. So it's been a while, but that one really, it's like Saban. It's like even with the wins, you still overanalyze and pick apart. That was like a 63-3 conference win where it was just like everything went right. I'll go back and listen to the tape, but I don't think there's really going to be much to pick apart.
September 21, you were full of us. Today, no us, buddy. You were great.
I know. No us. Zero. Just got right to the point. Love it. Except for that Lane Kiffin answer. It took a while to get to the point, but you knew where I was going with that.
AT, great job, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk next week.
Later, man. Aaron Torres online here on TexAgs Radio. All right, breaky break time. We're going to come back with Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. That and more. Callie Garner going to join us. We'll do that next on TexAgs. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Callie Garner is with us here, Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking, the website, normandystatebank.com. Callie, before the segment, I was kind of messing with you. I was telling you, why don't you put the microphone way up here?
Above my head.
I think the audience would appreciate that.
You think so?
I think it provides, it could be your bit. There you go.
Get it all the way up there.
Hey, did anybody tell you wore a Rangers shirt today?
You know what? They haven't.
Yeah, you're wearing a Rangers shirt.
It says World Series on it.
Oh, don't remind me. Congratulations to your Rangers.
We appreciate it.
We? Oh, you speak collectively for the group.
I speak for the team.
Yeah.
I speak for the team.
I wasn't serious. You didn't have to put it up there. But if you want, you can. It can be your thing.
Jackson, what should I do?
Right now, you're like dead center, mic in front of your face.
In front of my face?
Yeah, maybe we'd lower it.
You might want to move it down.
Now you broke the mic.
There you go.
There's another one right there.
What do we have going on in Around Aggieland?
So much. We are loaded this weekend.
All right.
And we are excited. We have the track and field team. They are hosting the Charlie Thomas Invitational. The last weekend, they traveled to the Razorback Invitational in Fayetteville, and a couple of Aggies set some new school records.
Yep.
Heather Abity set the record in women's pole vault, and Cooper Cothra set the record in the 1 mile race. His mile was under 4 minutes, and that is only the second time that it has ever been done in program history. So congratulations to those two Ags.
Congratulations.
The women's tennis team heads to the Sunshine State to take on the Miami Hurricanes, who are coming off a couple losses from their ITA kickoff weekend to USC and Vanderbilt. But there's a team who went undefeated in their ITA kickoff weekend, and that is your Texas A&M Aggies.
Gig 'em whoop.
Gig 'em whoop, all the things. They swept Northwestern and TCU last weekend to qualify for the ITA Women's National Indoor Championship, which is set to take place next weekend in Seattle. A&M is one of 16 teams that qualified and one of 4 SEC teams that will be in contention for that title. So looking forward to that for them. The men's tennis team hosts SMU as their season home opener today. They are currently undefeated, and they are also set to play in the ITA Men's National Indoor Championship in 2 weeks in New York. They are, again, one of 16 teams that qualified and one of 4 SEC teams in contention for that title. The swimming and diving hosts SMU and Aggieland this weekend to close out their dual meet season before heading to Auburn, Alabama for the SEC Championship. And the men's team is undefeated on the season, and the women's team has 1 loss. So we are looking forward to their postseason endeavors.
Awesome.
Men's basketball hosts Florida Saturday at 3 o'clock. It'll be a blackout at Reed Arena, and last year's blackout game was absolutely electric as the Ags took down number 11 Tennessee 68-63, and they're looking to take another exciting game in Reed Arena this weekend. Going to reiterate the words of everyone who's been on the show in the past month. Get to Reed Arena. The Aggies need you now more than ever, so let's show up for this team. Softball kicks off their season 1 week from today with 5 home games next weekend at Davis Diamond. Trisha Ford is starting her second season here in Aggieland, and we are so excited to watch her lead this team. And baseball is 14 days away from the first pitch. The anticipation for their season is growing, and the potential for this team is through the roof. So we are excited to see the corner of George Bush and Olsen back in action in 2 weeks.
Awesome stuff, Callie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, John Harris is going to be joining the show. I do want to read this from Daniel Stevenson. David, Lane Kiffin's definitely over the hump. They've never had a 10-win season. He's got 2 out of the last 3 years. Come on, man. I think, probably phrased that poorly. What I meant was to be the team in the SEC, because now he's got the talent. He's always had a talent deficiency there, like compared to the teams that he was competing against. I think he's kind of leveled up that playing field. So can he have enough to win the SEC? That's more of what I meant. We'll get into that with John Harris, plus, of course, Senior Bowl stuff. That and more at TexAgs Radio. And we are back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Jackson Moss is in the hizzy for shizzy. I don't know why I said that, Jackson. I'm sorry. I apologize. Strike that from the record.
You're getting better with the slang. I don't know if I've personally...
That's like my generation slang. That's not your generation.
I don't know if I've personally used in the hizzy for shizzy ever in my life, but getting better. David, what's the saying? It just means more. Is that right for the SEC?
John Harris laughing at me for saying that. Yeah. It just means more, yes.
Yeah. Well, it definitely means more for SEC track and field. There are 10 SEC men's track and field programs in the top 25 and 10 women's SEC track and field programs in the women's top 25. Our men's team is currently ranked at 18, and our women's team is currently ranked at 6th.
Awesome. Hold that thought. We'll do more around the SEC here in a moment. We go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That's where we find Juan Haris in the hizzy for shizzy. What's up, Johnny?
What's up? Oh, man.
Is that 2005?
Listen. Yeah, I think something like that. 2006. You can pull that off. You are very youthful. Me, if I tried that, I would sound like, old white guy trying to sound. No, I'm not. I know where my limits are. I can push the boundaries a little bit, but hizzy for shizzy, not gonna happen.
No.
At all.
Buddy,
No.
That hat.
For you, it's fine. For you.
That hat is fantastic. Like the glossy image. Like what am I looking at? I love that look.
Yeah, this is circa 2015, I think.
Oh.
You know why? Oh, you know why? Don't look at my hair. The gold around it. In 2015, it was the 100th year? The NFL was celebrating its 100th year. No, that was in 2012. I can't remember. Either way, no, I know what it was. They were celebrating the 50th year of the Super Bowl. And so every 50-yard line had gold around it, throughout the league. And so they did these hats for whatever reason. They put gold around it. So it's kind of nice. I can't rock the flat bill, though. I can't do the Shanahan. I got to have the baseball cut, I guess. I can't. The flat bill, I don't get it. I don't get the flat bill. I could try it, but it ain't going to happen.
In our friendship, how many times do you think you've seen me wear a hat?
Ooh, not many.
I'm not a hat guy.
I just do kind of a quick recall from 2007 to 2024. Not many at all. So your hair is always like good. Mine, like look at mine. People, look at mine. Like I got back from Mobile last night like 9:00, and then shower. I didn't even shower. I just cleaned up the house and put my stuff away, all that kind of stuff. Crashed on the couch, and then rolled out of bed like, what's happening today? Like didn't even know what was going on. So it's a great trip to go to Mobile. It's just, man, the older I get, the more it takes out of me. So it was a long drive. So I'm hanging in there. So I throw the hat on and away we go.
How was the experience?
It's always good, man. It's always really, really fun. I was able to get down on the field for every practice. So I was able to see some things up close, which is kind of nice. I always like that. Being in the stands is great, but me, I live on the sidelines. And so being able to be down on the field and, shake hands. I mean, it's one of those experiences, David, where me and other listeners know me pretty well. I geek out when I see somebody that's just like, whoa. So yesterday I was down on the field, and you can always tell day 3 of the Senior Bowl for two things. Number one, the rosters are almost cut in half because all the guys that have done pretty well are like, I'm out. They've done enough for the first 2 days. They're out. For the scouts and the teams, they've been out 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning for the last 2-3 nights after their interviews, with some pop. So they're all always late arrivals. So I get there at my normal time, like 9:15, practice start at 9:30, down on the field, see who gets out there early, and I'm kind of looking around, and I look next to me, and I'm like, man, that guy looks familiar. Oh my God, it's Jerry Rice. I was just so dumbstruck. I was like starstruck. I was like, oh my God, it's Jerry Rice. And, his son was there, Brendan Rice from out of USC. Big, tall, lanky, really good looking receiver. And Jerry Rice is there. I'm like, this is wild. So it's just everywhere you look. It's like anybody who's everybody in the NFL, whether it's former players, Hall of Famers. Frank Gore was on the field the other day. Of course, all the GMs, head coaches, not all the head coaches, but, Nick Caserio's floating around. And as I'm writing notes in my notebook, he's like, fill up that notebook, because he always says that to me during training camp. So it's always good to just be there and experience, whatever's going on in the world of football is happening like right there in Mobile. And the same thing with the combine. Combine's the same way, and even more so. because everybody is there, coaches and GMs, and draftable prospect is there in Mobile, or is there in Indianapolis. So to be able to do those two things is always really, really fun. I know people are like, well, combine, nothing happens. I'm like, yeah, you'd be surprised. There's a lot that happens. Not football, but there's a lot that happens. At least in the Senior Bowl, there's some football going on, which is always fun to watch.
Talk to me about Anaya Smith. How did he look this week?
Boy, I wish I had a great report on Anias. In a situation like that, I think the way Anias is going to be used, I think, or should be used, they're probably not going to do that at the Senior Bowl. There were some good moments. There were some good routes that he ran. But to be brutally honest, the quarterback stunk. I mean, I thought the quarterbacks really were not good. Penix was probably the best of all. I thought Spencer Rattler was probably the next best. I thought Bo Nix was not a good showing for Bo Nix. Maybe until day 3. Day 3, he started getting a little bit more comfortable, but it was just not a good showing for the quarterbacks. And the other thing, too, is when you get in these practice settings, a guy like Anias, I think, is going to be really important at the NFL because of the routes he can run, how he can get open. Well, all of that is in and around running those slot routes and trying to run slot fades. Well, you try to run a slot fade, and these DBs are mauling guys. They're grabbing and clutching, and it's practice. So, then the pass is thrown overhead, and they're like, incomplete. Like, no, dude, that's a 15-yard penalty in the NFL. That's a 10-yard first down in the NFL. So I don't think it was a great showing by Anias, but I didn't walk out of there going, my thought has changed. Oh, no, he can't do it. Had some good moments. I thought he held up more so the second day. I thought Layden was holding up a little bit better. I thought there were some interior guys that really were, shined throughout the whole process. Christian Haynes from out of UConn had a good week. Johnson from Oregon was tremendous. So I thought Layden was okay. Impressive looking dude when you see him up close. I mean, that's one of the great things about being there is, you see these guys on television and really get up close to him and like, whoa, wow, he's striking. But some things up, technique wise, still kind of not quite where you want it to be. But strong, coachable. I mean, I think he's going to end up being a guy, down the road. McKinley had an opportunity, I felt like, to really shine. He's strong. Like, it's hard to describe how he's built because he looks like a box. Like his shoulders are out to here, and he's just like my buddy calls it a bleep brick house, and I'm like, yeah, he's kind of built like that. Game really needs a lot of refinement. Like when they would do pass rush one-on-ones, he just bull rushed the whole time because he's so darn strong, which I think is great, but effective even at his size. To be a 3-down player, he's got to learn how to rush the quarterback more so than, well, I'm just going to this guy and put him back on his wallet. Because when you try to do that to Quentin Nelson, you end up on your wallet. You try and do that against Zach Martin, and you'll go nowhere. So there's got to be some refinement in his game, and I think he's got it. Like, he's got the power. He's got the quickness. Got good shock in his hands. Like, all those things you want from an interior defensive lineman, but there's just got to be more, especially this pass rush game. And I know people say, well, yeah, he can play the run, and the run's important, and it is. There's no doubt. I had this conversation with Anthony Weaver. This was back in, 15, 16, and Alabama had the two stud defensive tackles, Jerron Reed and Sean Robinson. And I like both of them because they were nasty. Against the run, whoa, they were tough. And I remember talking to Weave about who I liked, and he kind of looked at me like, what? He goes, they can't rush the passer. And I realized at that moment, like, man, it's one thing to be big and strong on the inside, play the run on first down, maybe even second down. But if you're not a 3-down player, you're not going to end up in the first round. You're going to end up in the top 50. So to me, McKinley's game has got a really rounded shape. Now, that can happen at the NFL level. I saw with DJ Reader. You saw it too, David. DJ Reader turned himself into a really good pass rusher from the inside where he could stay on the field on 3 downs for the Texans. And then he went and made a lot of money with the Bengals doing the same thing. really, really good, agile, big guy. I think McKinley can be like that. Now, he's going to make an impact because of how strong he is, how he'll be able to hold up against the run. But he's got to be more dynamic in the pass game. And really, at the Senior Bowl, that was an opportunity to kind of work on some things. And he just worked on being a bull rusher. There's got to be more to his game, especially when you look around and go, okay, this guy can do this and this guy can do that. And wow, this guy can move from outside to inside. He can go from inside to outside. Something that separates him. And a guy that size and that quick and that strong, if he could add just a rip move on the outside, that's effective. Something, go back inside, something, he's going to be a problem. He didn't show that at the Senior Bowl. Now, maybe it's there. Maybe that club is in his bag, but he didn't show that at the Senior Bowl at all.
Johnny, I saw a couple reports that Ainias, I think he even confirmed my interview with the Texans. Look, yeah, that would be a cool story for it to come happen. Like hometown team, a guy that I think people have slept on throughout his career. Obviously, the latter half of his college football career, people knew who he was. But, again, people doubting what kind of NFL player he could be. Could you imagine him having the kind of impact he's had there at the Texans?
Absolutely. And I thought about that. And, pop the air in anybody's balloon. But I've always thought, guy going back to his hometown, very difficult. I think it's really difficult. Jalen Petre's going through that right now. I don't know if Jalen's not the kind of guy that has a bunch of hangers on and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if Ainias is that way, but there's so many guys that have come to the league, that end up in that same town or, they're around their parents. Going away after going to Dulles and going to A&M, go to the Commanders, go to the Seahawks, go play for the Rams. Just get away, be a professional, and be an adult away from here. Said, I would love Ainias for us. I think he would fit very, very well with Tank and with Nico because you don't want to put Tank – this sounds weird, but you don't want to put Tank in the slot. Tank's not really a slot receiver. Like Ainias is. And Ainias, you can line up in a backfield, and then you can run some of those same routes that the slot receiver would run. You could use him on reverses. They use Tank on those reverses after breaking his leg. They may want to stop that going forward. So you need that element in this offense. And I think Ainias would really, really to this offense, there's no question. And I do feel like Ainias is that kind of guy that could handle playing at home. But guys a lot of times don't. They don't handle it well. There are too many hangers on. Mom and dad are always, kind of, around. And sometimes it's better to just get them out of Dodge, if you will. Now, once you've played in Tampa, come back to your hometown. Okay, Mike, that's okay. We can come to agreement on a good contract, coming back home after being away for a while. I don't mind that. But I think when guys go from high school, college, pro, and it's all right here, I think that can be tough. And I'm not just talking about Houston. I'm talking about other places too. There's just that added pressure. That's why I never wanted VY here in Houston, because I think for all the troubles he even had in Tennessee, I think they would have been magnified 10 times here in Houston. And the expectations for a Houston homeboy is it gets tough. But guys that have come back have done a good job for Jerry Hughes. Has done a great job. Maybe Mike ends up here, but that would be really, really cool because I think if you put Tank and Nico with Mike, man.
Johnny, that makes me think.
My heart flutter.
In 1998, one of my first assignments when I was interning at the NBC station in Houston, I was at Rashard Lewis's house the night before the NBA draft. And I remember thinking to myself, if the Rockets draft him, and they did skip, obviously, he ended up going to the Seattle Supersonics. I don't know if that would be a good thing because everything's here. It might have been a great thing, but I remember thinking, and it probably was the wrong move because they ended up drafting Michael Dickerson, Coutinho, who was nice, and Bryce, God, the three-point shooter, Bryce Drew. Thank you.
Bryce Drew.
Right?
Yeah.
Over. And by the way, Coutinho was in second over Rashard Lewis. But I remember thinking it could have been a bad thing because your network is there. All your buddies are there. The good influences and the bad influences. And I think that's an interesting thing. But when you're an older player or a veteran player like Ainias, it could work in that kind of environment. It takes a certain type of personality.
And that's why I think it's worked, to a degree for Jalen. But, Jalen didn't have – Jalen Petre, that is. Jalen didn't have a great second year. There's starting to be that pressure that comes with that. And I hate it for guys. I also think this in a lot of different respects. I'm not a big fan of, I hear this all the time. Oh, well, such and such coach is going to go back and coach at his alma mater. And I'm like, man, the last thing I really would want to do is go coach at my alma mater. I want to remember my college years for what they were and how great they were. I go coach at my alma mater and things don't go so well. The last thing I'm going to remember about my alma mater is I got fired. I don't want that. So it kind of works in that way too. It takes a special dude. Now, Jalen went through it at Baylor, so he kind of had gone through the adversity. I think Ainias has done the same. One thing about Ainias is he has multiple ways to impact an offense. And that, to me, is what makes a guy special. Like I was talking about McKinley earlier. Like, McKinley's going to impact the run game like day one. Right now, that's it. And because he's going to be really good against the run at first. Can he develop into a pass rusher? You get Ainias, and it's like, okay, what can we do with this guy? Well, if we go 11 personnel, we can put him in slot. We can line him in the backfield. We can run him. We got kick and punt returns, and we want to use him that way. We had a great year with kick and punt returns, but we can use him in that way. There's some different things that we can do with him, and he ends up winning some matchups. So I like that part where I can have varied impact in a number of different ways. And I think, like you said, Ainias has been through it. And I think that's going to help him going forward. And obviously playing in the SEC is definitely going to help guys for sure. But I think this is the adversity of things didn't always come easy, whether it's injury or whatever the case might be. But when the lights went on and he needed to make some plays, he made some plays. And he made it in some big games. And I think that's going to be something that bolsters his stock. Now, are there going to be teams that just shouldn't look at Ainias at all? Absolutely. I think there are some teams that they don't use the slot receiver that much. They have no real offensive creativity. They won't know how to use him. Yeah, stay away. But if you put Ainias with us, you put Ainias with the Chiefs, you put Ainias with the Dolphins. They got Braxton Berrios right now. I don't know his contract situation, but maybe you move on from Braxton, you get on Ainias. And you know what Devon did for him. So, hey, maybe they'll look at another Aggie. They like the speed, they like the quickness, they like that impact. So, maybe that's a spot. And Mike McDaniel's going to get creative with it. So, would I love to see Ainias in Houston? Absolutely, man. Listen, all three of those Aggies I would love to see in Houston. There's no question. I can't get greedy. I think Ainias probably fits the best and would probably get the opportunity the soonest outside of McKinley. McKinley would obviously be in the mix. There's no question. How much he would get would depend on how well he could develop as a pass rusher early in his career.
Well, I'll throw another one at you. Edge Cooper. East-West Shrine game.
Whoa.
Okay.
Well, okay. So, I'm thinking, I just got back from Mobile.
Yeah.
From this Edge Cooper curveball. And I'm like, so on my way back from Mobile yesterday, Drew Doherty says, hey, I'm doing my mock draft roundup. And so what Drew does is he gets all the different mock drafts from all across the country. And, people have been putting them out there, but it really didn't make a lot of sense because you don't know what the true order is, especially like with us. Now you know what the order is. It's either Kansas City at 31 or 32 and San Francisco vice versa. So now you know. So I'll be working on mock draft probably this weekend just so I can keep kind of the football juices going. And he asked me, who would you put at 23? And literally two names came to mind. And number one was Leatu Latu from out of UCLA, who's an absolute dude. Like David, he could touch you from where I'm sitting. Like you talk about pass rush moves. That dude from UCLA is incredible. Now his medicals are gonna. The second name that came to mind was Edgerrin Cooper, and the impact that Christian Harris had. And step back and you go, okay, Christian Harris had a great career at Alabama, but he was fast, he was quick, he had all those skills, but sometimes instinctively it just didn't always click. He needed a little bit of time. Well, that little bit of time started paying off about halfway through the year. He got his starting position back, and all of a sudden Christian Harris went to a whole different level. Edgerrin Cooper's he's similar to Christian in that way. He's got all the athletic ability in the world. Still instinctively is kind of and they moved him around so much to do some different things, but he's so explosive. If you put Edgerrin Cooper next to Christian Harris for the next 5 to 7 years, keep them together, you could have your Texans version of Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Now, I don't know what the Texans will look at, linebacker-wise in free agency. They may look at Patrick Queen. They may want to put Queen because of the experience next to Christian. They may not want to wait for a rookie at that position, because they've already kind of gone through it. They got Henry To'oTo'o going into his second year as well. But if they really want to take that defense to a different level from a speed explosiveness standpoint, Adrian Cooper would end up being a pick. Now, 23, where we're picking in the first round, that might be tad rich. Maybe. I kind of feel like Edge is probably 25 to 32, but, look, that's a couple picks, And, look, Nick might move up, move down. Those are the things he's going to do. But I got a feeling with D'Amico Ryans watches in particular that South Carolina tape, pops off the page like no other player. So he's absolutely going to be in that mix for sure. If you like those three guys, I would love Cooper. Tempt me with a good time, David.
Johnny, tell people what they can get on footballtakeover.com.
Yeah, footballtakeover.com this weekend is going to be a lot of Senior Bowl recap. I'm going to have my YouTube page at JH Football Takeover with my draft crushes from Mobile, guys that I really, really liked. That at different positions, some guys that maybe you never heard of. My top corner this year is a guy from Toledo, which is kind of weird to say. Going into the year, I was like, okay, I like this guy. But let's see how he does in 2023. He was dominant, and he was dominant at the Senior Bowl. That's Quinyon Mitchell. So got a lot of that stuff. And then mock draft to be posting probably sometime next week. Those things take such a long time, but I'll try and get it done, readers in mind. So I appreciate it, David. Yeah, footballtakeover.com, and then at JH Football Takeover on YouTube. Appreciate y'all.
Johnny, appreciate you, brother. Love you. Talk to you soon.
Go put the film on, bro.
You know it. See you, brother. John Harris there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Appreciate his time. We'll take a break. We'll come back and finish up around the SEC. Right now, it's send concrete lifting and support, 979-933-8527. You don't need to replace it, guys. All you got to do is lift it. And if you've got any kind of concrete issues at all on your driveway, on your, not really the sidewalk, but they can take care of sidewalks as well. Your patio, you got a business, you got some issues all around. Highway guy, you want to take care of it? You don't need to replace the concrete. That's super expensive. You can lift it, and that's what they do there at Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support. 60 years of professional construction and concrete experience. Brian Dickerson runs that ship, and he is amazing. Aggie owned and operated. They are going to tell you why the concrete tends to settle poorly, and it could be several reasons behind it. They're going to help you find a solution before your problem does escalate there. They can take care of you here locally in the Bryan College Station area. They can take care of you all around the state of Texas. And oh, by the way, they'll go anywhere in the country. So if you're listening to any place, call them up, 979-933-8527. They can raise and stabilize any form of concrete slab. And once the project is finished, the appearance is close to seamless to the eyes out there. They provide an honest opinion regarding your residence. It could be also factory floors, apartments, complexes, warehouses. You can take care of the roads, the streets, the highways, the bridges. You name it, they do it. A fraction of the cost of replacement. Call them up, 979-933-8527. Again, that number, 979-933-8527. Don't replace it. Lift it with Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Jackson Moss going to finish up a little bit of Around the SEC. What else you got for us, buddy?
Yeah, so the 2025 SEC baseball tournament will have a new look. The new format was approved yesterday. All 16 SEC baseball teams will participate in the league's annual postseason tournament in a single elimination format, beginning with the 2025 baseball season. It was previously a hybrid single and double elimination tournament. The good news is that the tournament will still be 6 days long, starting on Tuesday and ending on Sunday. And now I'll kind of wrap it up with a couple women's basketball final scores. Kentucky falls to Mississippi State 77-74 in overtime at home. The Lady Volunteers have no trouble handling Georgia on the road in Athens 95-73. And South Carolina stays perfect after beating Auburn in Auburn 76-54. And then finally, the Aggies take on Mississippi State at Reed this Sunday in hopes of getting their fourth win in SEC play.
They need it. They absolutely need it. All right, Jackson, let's read a couple text messages if we got time for those.
All right. So Jim in Temple, this is more towards the men's basketball, but he said up-tempo the rock on them, Ags, wear them out. This is pretty much a lot of these were for Mark French as well.
Well, the up-tempo part, no doubt. Like, I've been hoping for it. Again, like, I'm looking at things through the eyeball test, not through necessarily metrics of what this guy can do. Like, I just think when they're up and going, there's an urgency to that style of basketball that leads to easier buckets. Now, you can get wild, right? You know, like solo in that kind of environment can be fantastic, but it can lead to some crazy moments too, right? But I like the urgency you play with whenever you have those moments out there. So to me, it's all about getting easy buckets for a team that sometimes does struggle to score. And by the way, yeah, they're really good at offensive rebounding, so they put up some points, but I want to see like easy buckets and get defensive rebounds. Being really good at offensive rebounds is a plus when you're a bad shooting team. Yes, it is. But how about we focus those efforts on the defensive rebounding and get easier buckets, and if our numbers go down offensive rebounding-wise, but our defensive numbers go up, now we're trending in a much better direction. Don't get me wrong. I want them to still be one or two in the country when it comes to offensive rebounds. I just want some easier buckets. I think easier buckets go a long way towards this team reaching the potential that we thought they had when we started talking about it, right? Like when we first started talking about it, like what we thought this team could do, it was all about being able to, I think we all thought they'd be a better free throw shooting team. We thought they would have a couple more complement of players. We don't need to go down that truck again, but if you don't have them and these games do come down to the wire, you've got to put yourself in a position to maximize opportunities. And if you're not a great three-point shooting team, you've got to get the easy buckets. And a high up-tempo offense will get you there. It has you play the lanes. You get some easy steals that lead to points. All those things combined, to me, lead to a much better place. All right, we're going to hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Chris Taylor. We like to do this player spotlight. We're going to focus in on wide receivers with CT, the former Aggie, here on he's a current Aggie, by the way, but, former Aggie player. There we go. I hear Richard yelling at me. What is he yelling about? Maybe he's not yelling at me. Okay, never disregard. Regardless, there's people going crazy back there. We'll talk to CT about the wide receiver situation. Right now, we're talking Costa Vida. If you're going to the game tomorrow, if you're not, you should be. But if you are going to the game tomorrow, go eat some Costa Vida when you're out there. They're going to have a concession stand for all those A&M men's and women's basketball games just right inside the main entrance, directly across sections 113 and 112. Their menu does consist of chili lime chicken. They've got sweet pork burritos, chili lime chicken, and sweet pork quesadillas, and chips and queso. You can get that when you go to Reed Arena for both the men's games and the women's game. But you can also go to South College Station, to the Real Restaurant, right, where you go in there and you're going to get yourself some great food. And they have amazing food and great customer service out there. You can get the Fresh Mex made exactly the way you love it, fresh and scratch made, where you can taste the difference, where every ingredient does matter. You get the sweet pork quesadillas, the raspberry chipotle chicken salad, the chips and queso, the shrimp taco mango salsa, you name it, you can get it in South College Station. The address is 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. That is South College Station, Aggie owned and operated. Say hi to Holly at Costa Vida, 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. All right, it is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Good people can have a bad day. Call Brian Foley Law at 936-596-0407, serving Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and the Brazos Valley. We go there and we find our buddy CT, Chris Taylor. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you guys doing this morning?
I'm good, man. You've been breaking down some film recently, right? You've been kind of working and posting and doing good work.
Man, I'm trying to. I know that in today's NIL landscape and just college football in general, it's confusing. So, the more that I can stay up on it and be able to talk to parents and things about it, I think the better off everybody's going to be. So, trying to stay engaged.
It's interesting. So every year that I've done this show, you come on during the offseason and we kind of break down players. This year's a little different. We're going to try to do some of that this offseason, but it's like there's so much turnover, right? It is like, if you want to talk about the wide receivers, well, Evan Stewart's not there to talk about, right? Like, he's not the only one. They bring in a bunch of dudes. We want to talk about certain guys. It's like you need name tags for these players, CT.
Yeah, it's go back to the day and age where, the guys wore the name tag on the front of their helmet. So guys who knew who they were. So it's hard to keep up with. I mean, one season they're here, the next season they may be in the portal or it's the Wild West. But hey, we've got to stay on top of it.
I can't say that this is going to be, if I were a coach, I would handle it exactly like this. But if I got players that constantly use social media to drive up transfer speculation, I'm done with them. And I don't need them around. To me, there's no good that comes from it. And either they're leaving or eventually leaving.
Yeah, and I don't follow all the threads and stuff from like Georgia and some of those programs, but it is frustrating, especially as a coach. You have guys that you go and recruit and you think that they're there for a very specific reason. And let's face it, NIL, it comes big money and guys able to cash in on their name, image, and likeness. So I understand that portion, but to play into who's the highest bidder and try to find out who's going to pay me the most money, that's the frustrating part about this new college football world. But I think it's here to stay. I just think you need to put some bumpers on it a little bit, and I think it can be good for both sides. There just has to be some. I think you got to rein it in just a little bit to make sure that both sides are going to be happy.
CT, let's talk about the wide receiver group in general, and then we'll kind of break it out with certain players that I'll throw out at you. Yeah. But what do you think about that group, minus Evan Stewart, but with some of the additions that they've made?
I mean, you've got guys that have made plays all season, and coming down the stretch last season, when you have a guy that was not on the field for whatever reason, you had other players in that group, Jade Walker being one of them that stepped up and made plays. I thought he really took a step forward again, in that LSU game, and that continued over into the bowl game. But what you have in a Noah Thomas, what you have in Muhsin Muhammad III, so you have that core group of guys. Now who's going to emerge as that next guy? Is it, Terry, Bussey, that the 5-star that we're still chasing? Is it some of these guys that have transferred in from like a La Tech or Troy? So which one of those guys takes that step? But then, not just with that receiver core, what I'm excited about, you're getting back Donovan Green, hopefully he's going to be at 100% when he comes back. So that tight end position should take a little bit of pressure off of that wide receiver group. And then we know what we have, that three-headed monster in the backfield. I think the O-line is going to be much improved this year, especially with the new O-line coach, the ability to be able to run the football. I just think it's and we know it's the Elko era. It's going to be a totally different look. I'm excited for spring game just to see, kind of get a glimpse of what we can look forward to in the fall. But that wide receiver group has the talent, but there are so many other position groups right around it that are going to be able to help complement what they're going to be able to do on Saturday.
Talking to Chris Taylor here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're going to take them in parts. The guy who has been underused, some of it his fault, some of it just because how things worked across the street, Moose Muhammad. He has big playability. He's got wide receiver 1 ability. He's got acrobatic ability. If he stays on the field, what kind of guy is he?
He's a guy that'll play on Sunday for sure. He has a lot of the attributes that his dad had. You look at, like you said, big playability. He has the ability to be wide receiver one. I think he is a technician. I think he runs very good routes. I think he attacks the football well when it's in the air. So you have a guy that, he's not a 6'4", 6'5" guy, but maybe 6'1", but he plays bigger. And that's what you're always looking for, especially as a quarterback. You hear about that catch radius and stuff all the time, being able to go up and track the football. So if he can stay healthy and keep his nose clean, I think Moose can headline what that receiver group can be and kind of set the tempo and set the tone as we move into 24.
Noah Thomas, another guy. I'd like to see him on the field more. Big body, love to throw the ball up to him. What do you expect from him here in year number 3?
I want him to be able to stay healthy, and I get it. It's a tough game. It's a long season, but I think if you can keep him on the field and healthy, I mean, he brings a lot to the table. I loved him when he came out of high school. I thought he was, out of those receivers that we got, that he could have the highest upside and the highest ceiling. I think he's a great route runner. I think he attacks the ball well as as the same as Moose does. But just those 50-50 balls, being 6'5", 6'6", being able to get off the ground and go up and get the football. He's a huge asset, especially in the red zone, to be able to go up and play against those smaller corners. So Noah brings a different skill set than Moose. They're both great, I think, in their route running ability, but having that bigger frame, Noah is able to go up, and I think he can be a little bit more effective in the red zone area.
Talking to Chris Taylor here on TexAgs Radio. Ja'Day Walker had very similar stats to Evan Stewart. His season started off high, then he had a little lull in the middle and finished very strong. What do you see from Ja'Day?
I love the mental toughness. There was a time in there where the drops seemed to plague him a little bit, but he bounced back from it. And I thought he had a very strong end to the season. So I love that he brings that mental part of the game, being able, he's athletic, being able to slide from the end zone all the way over to the sideline. I think everybody has seen that video, after that touchdown catch, but I think he's an athletic guy. I think he's in that mid-range. What is he? 6 foot, 6'1". I think he's decent in route running, but he just finds a way to get open. He has a knack to find the football. He has a knack to make big plays. And I think that LSU game where it really kind of put him on the map, and then Oklahoma State, you saw what he did in the bowl game. Those three guys, man, if they can pick up where they left off and what we know that they can be, then, I'm not worried about the losses that we had at the receiver position. We're going to be just fine.
If they get Terry Bussey on Wednesday, if he officially signs with A&M and they use him on both sides and they use him as a wide receiver, have you watched this film? What do you think, man?
Oh, yeah. And he reminds me of two former guys, Terrence Murphy. We know what type of career T. Murph had, coming from that quarterback position. But then, he's just dynamic, and getting a chance to watch that tape. He reminded me a lot of Malcolm Kennedy as well. You take your best athlete, especially at, the levels that we played. I played at 3A football, and at those levels, sometimes you take your best athlete, you put them at quarterback, and then you let them go and do what they do best. And for him to take his team, put them in a position, win a state title, but he just does so much. He did so much for that team. I think being able to have that athletic ability, he's I think it would transfer and translate to the college game and allow him to play wide receiver. So I'm excited to see. We've got to get him first. But then I think once you get him here, he's one of those guys, a Malcolm Kennedy, a Terrence Murphy, athletic ability for days, but understands, the offensive side of the football, especially playing quarterback, understanding defenses, what they're trying to do to you, when coverage rolls and all of those different things. So it would be a great addition to be able to add into that wide receiver room if we can get him on Wednesday.
Let's talk a little bit about the transfers. How about Cyrus Allen, the speed that he brings to the table?
Yeah, he's able to take the top off the defense, and I didn't know much about him, but getting a chance to go and watch his tape, he has that big play ability. He's able to take the top off. I thought, He catches the football well with his hands. And, having a guy that has been and has played college football, bringing them in, it's much like Ja'Day Walker. The same thing. Didn't know what we were going to get, not sure what to expect when he transferred last year. But having one of those guys that's able to do it, that's able to be able to make those plays, who's made it at the college level, I don't think, stepping up in conference and stepping up in competition is going to scare him. I think he's going to compete to get on the field this fall.
The Troy wide receiver, Jabari Barber, another name that I'm intrigued by. Again, bringing in dudes that if they have some of the impact that Ja'Day Walker had last year, now we're talking about a full-rounded wide receiver group, and I know they're still hoping to add some other pieces.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if it's Elko and what he's looking at, but very similar type wide receivers. But again, and not to beat a dead horse, you had Ja'Day come in last year. You have these guys transferring in this year. The experience, I think, is what they're going to bring to that receiver room, especially if you get a Terry Bussey that's got to learn how to play the college game. You get guys in there that have been there, who have had success doing it. Now they're being recognized and able to move up in level. I think you're adding some guys that can be an impact and an immediate impact for that receiver room.
CT, I didn't ask you this one earlier, but I should have. Isaiah Williams, and what I'm intrigued by, and look, this may not be the right formula, but when you are an out-of-state guy coming from Florida and you pick Texas A&M and you play the position of wide receiver, I'm going to be intrigued, man. That's just the bottom line. Now, I don't even have to watch the film. Just that information alone makes me intrigued.
But he's so smooth, and he's deceptively fast, if you can be that. He was getting separation, and I'm like, is this guy really that fast, or are the guys that he's playing that slow? But, I mean, consistent, on a very consistent basis. He's separating. He's making big plays. I think his first 10 clips might have been, 50, 60-yard touchdowns. So he brings that big playability. Obviously, when we talk about football, I still argue with my friends about it today. Is it California? Is it Texas? Is it Florida? We're always going to say we're the king of football, but, they play football down in Florida too. They're pretty good. So getting a guy, I think he's played a lot of good football. He's played some tough football. He's played a lot of great competition. And, I thought he had a really good skill set. I'd love to see him run and get in that intermediate route, that route running tree. I'd love to see what he's able to do in that mid range. And we know he can take the top off. We know he has big playability, but at this level, you got to be able to run a route, create separation, because it's going to get a little tighter. But I think he brings a great skill set to the table.
CT, let's close with this. All right, that wide receiver group. I still think, and hopefully Terry Bussey comes, and there's some maybe other surprises that could happen. But as is, having Connor Wigman, a healthy Connor Wigman with the way he was ascending, that already, like year 3, it'll be year 3 for Connor. Yes, he's only got, 8 starts or whatever it is. I think it's 8. That could make a huge difference for all these guys.
Yeah. Obviously the signal caller is going to be very important, and it was hard last year playing with 4 quarterbacks. Hopefully we can settle in and have one guy that stays healthy. I think that we should see a step forward in that with the play of the offensive line. I love the move of moving Basantis inside. I love that. Give him an opportunity to come off the football a little bit more and not have to drop back and do pass sets, 40 times a game. So getting Connor healthy, getting that continuity through the spring, having those guys play together in the fall. But, with that, I think you've got 2 guys behind Connor that are going to push him. I love competition in that room. And so I think A&M has some good problems at some positions with guys that can play. They've shown the ability to be able to play. And now it's just a matter of push each other, create that competition. But this could be a special group going into 24 on the offensive side of the ball.
That is Chris Taylor here on TexAgs Radio. CT, thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too, brother. Thank you very much, CT, bringing it there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. All right, we're going to hit a break. One final segment. When we come back, some final thoughts to close it all down here on TexAgs Radio. All right, it's time to end the day with Double Days. Caller number 12 at 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave, serving Aggieland since 1984. They got your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls with reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledays.com and your favorites are on their way. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Gambling. You've got some things that are happening there in the world of the Super Bowl. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sure Nick's going to hate this one, but quite frankly, I hate it too. There's now prop bets being placed on if Travis Kelce is going to propose to Taylor Swift on the field after the game.
Gosh. I thought this was going to go like, I'm sure there's prop bets about how many times she's going to be shown on TV. I bet there's over, 50, you think?
Actually, I saw it somewhere where it was 15.
Okay.
I think there is an over-under. But
the last great superstar to do something like that was Carlos Correa.
Propose after winning a championship.
Yeah, didn't he do that with his wife Danielle?
In Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Incoming slack from Richard Zane about how that championship wasn't real.
Oh, really? They beat the Dodgers, though.
They got it plus 1,000, though. So, not that I care, but
I think you care.
No.
Any other closing thoughts there, Mr. Moss?
No. I look forward to getting a good workout in. You know, I know you might be slacking on the running, but I'm going to be picking it up after this show. So,
buddy.
Wow.
I mean,
I got you in endurance. I'm telling you, I have you.
Okay, that's just your way of wanting to hang out with me. It's not going to happen. All right, it's getting a little creepy. All right, let's just go ahead and be honest. No, you can't come over for dinner tonight. Just kidding, Jackson. Thank you, sir. That's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on a Friday. So next week, let's not forget, National Signing Day Wednesday. We'll have a special show for you. On Monday, I know we got Billy. I know we got Olin. I know we got Buzz. We got anything else, Nick? Not yet, right? We're working on stuff. Thanks for your input, Nick. I really appreciate it. No, seriously, I really do appreciate it. That's going to do it. Thanks to everybody for watching, listening, and all the people who help on this show. We will see you all on Monday.